hard to find to sell as soon as possible. Seniors have chosen their quotes and senior superlatives. We held ASVAB testing for juniors and seniors interested. The sophomores are planning their spring semi-formal for April 21st. Tickets are on sale to sophomores and freshmen. The Shays robotic competition teams had an amazing award-winning 2022 to 2023 competition season that ended March 5th at the 2023 Rhode Island FTC Robotics Championship at the New England Tech. Both teams, 7093 and 8413, advanced to the semifinale round at the state competitions. Congrats to them and Mrs. Jones. The RISD/Shay Art Club has started up again. We will be holding our Shay government meeting on March 22nd. All clubs and class officers are welcome. We held our last Speak Life and More this past Friday. All the performers did incredible. Key Club is currently holding a spring food drive from now until spring break. Prom has a date. Prom will be held at Crystal Lake Golf Club on June 2nd. To end, the unified basketball team won their first game on March 16th, 50-45 over Juanta Sanchez. It was a great team effort. Thank you for all who came. That is all. Thank you for your time.
Great things happening over there. Representative from Tolman.
Hello, my name is Dylan Brulette and I'm a junior at Tolman High School and I am here representing Tolman. First off, the Shulman competitive cheerleading team won the Division I state championship on Saturday, March 11th. The team finished 8th in New England this past Saturday. Great job to all the student athletes. Yareli Sanchez Martin, Kendra Castro, Erica Ayala, and Emma McPherson, who are members of the Tolman Marketing and Management Academy at Tolman DECA, presented to all of the 8th grade students the 3 middle schools in hopes of starting a middle school DECA program. Our hope in creating this program is to generate interest from the students before they reach high school. The dates of the presentations were January 9th at Jenks, January 23rd at Goff, and January 30th at Slater. On March 10th, the freshman facilitator, Mr. Parada, presented awards to the first semester Fabulous Freshmen. These students were recognized by their teachers for outstanding academic progress and improvement throughout the course of the first semester. On March 7th, Hawahu Berry presented Tolman at the Rhode Island State House, and on March 8th at the Pawtucket City Hall to observe National Women's History Month. On March 11th, Progress 3 grades were posted for parents and to view in Skyward. These grades can also be printed upon request. On Friday, March 17th, several Tolman student athletes were honored as Key Spirit Award winners. The award honors students athletes that display leadership, dedication, and commitment to their sport. The winners for our winter sports season are as follows: Yutan Do for boys indoor track, Naisa Sorel Solo, girls indoor track, Ariana Blanco, girls basketball, Naomi Barboza, competitive cheerleading, Dembo Conte, boys basketball, Janisa Gomes, girls swimming, and Jean Lucas Barbozo for wrestling. On March 3rd, Assistant Principal Miss Lutz presented awards to the first semester super sophomores. These students were recognized for their outstanding academic progress and improvement throughout the course of the first semester. The senior supper is scheduled for this Friday at 12 Acres in Smithfield. The event was originally scheduled for March 3rd, but was postponed due to weather. Ticket sales have been going great as our seniors are looking forward for their annual Tolman tradition. During advisory last week, all our freshmen participated in our annual academic fair. The fair gives our freshmen the opportunity to learn about the academic options available for them as they prepare to complete their course selections for next year. This Friday, Assistant Principal Ms. Carlone will be celebrating our top juniors with a special luncheon. These students were recognized for their outstanding academic progress and improvement throughout the course of the first semester, and that is all.
Good. Now the representative from Jacqueline Walsh Art School. Is there a representative from Jacqueline Walsh? Oh, Avery, okay.
Hello, my name is Ryan Andela. I'm a senior. I study dance at JMW. I'm gonna be filling in for Princess Apio, who couldn't come here tonight. So our mock trial team just finished their second season. They came in fourth place, coming short to East Greenwich, but they're already looking forward to next year. Festival Ballet has began our residency with our sophomore dance majors, and they're going to be putting together a performance to perform in our spring combination. Sorry. Theater and dance students have both seen performances at the Gamma and Ballet Providence respectively. Princess, the girl who's usually here, your usual representative for JMW, had an incredible time at the legislature for a day as part of Women's Day celebration, and she was honored to be to represent JMW and make connections with leaders in our community. And 3 of our art majors have received a full scholarship for RISD's prestigious pre-college program. And each scholarship is worth $11,000, so that's pretty fun for them. And there's a couple events that we are looking forward to later this month on the 29th of March. The ACDA Choral Festival is what our chorus is going to be performing at and competing at, so that's pretty fun. On April 4th, we're going to be having a lip sync battle at our school with some of the kids. It's going to be a fun time. And then also on April 6th, we're going to be having a school dance themed after Just Dance, which is pretty fun. Yeah, so thank you for your time, and I hope you guys have great rest of your days and better tomorrows.
It's great, thank you. Nice job, all 3 of you. All right, now I'd like to turn this over to Superintendent for recognition.
Thank you, Chairman. We have the distinct pleasure of honoring a teacher this evening. She's already been recognized as a Rookie Teacher of the Year out of Slater Middle School. She was nominated by the administration there, Mr. Freeman and Mr. Rich, with regard to her talents and her classroom and her educational poise and excellence. Chelsea O'Connor, come on down. You are this year's Rookie Teacher of the Year in Rhode Island Mathematics Teacher Association.
Congratulations.
So Slater had a celebration for her last week in front of her students and her colleagues. And Mr. Rich did a great job in honoring her, and her students were elated that their teacher has received this. So I'd like to congratulate her once again and thank Slater administration for nominating her, and best of luck and continued excellence.
Now moving on to public participation. I know there's a few that have signed up. The first one, Rebecca.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I'm a parent of a Northern Rhode Island Collaborative student, and I just wanted to express my feelings about the whole Pawtucket signing out of the contract. So I'm just going to read something I pre-wrote. My daughter is Caitlin. She has multiple diagnoses, which make her sometimes a unique student to figure out. She has hydrocephalus, cerebral palsy, which causes a lot of physical disabilities, developmental disabilities, seizures, anxiety, ADHD, scoliosis, frequent headaches, and other medical struggles. She's already had 11 brain surgeries. All of these can make her mood change day by day. She can have a bad headache one day, severe anxiety another, or just have a hard time focusing. Caitlin is out of district because Pawtucket didn't have the staff training or resources to understand the difference between purposeful defiance and behavior struggles due to other issues, or had a safe and accessible physical school setting. Caitlin is also a student who no longer does well with inclusion because of her severe anxiety. In the elementary level, she was in a regular ed classroom with typical peers and a special educator. She did well in that setting because she was with the same children for many years in a fairly small school at Curtis. At that point, she was not developmentally as far behind her peers. As Caitlin transitioned to middle school level, we as her parents knew she would no longer fit in well in the regular ed setting and elected to place her in a self-contained classroom. This choice was to limit the stress of moving classes and busy halls, along with a larger developmental gap between herself and her peers. This was the year that our struggles with home district began. Because of the accessibility of schools, our home school would have been Goff, and the special education classes, Caitlin was placed here at Jenks, where she was with children she did not know because all of her children from Curtis went over to Goff. She was also, she is a twin, and her brother went to Goff. They had not been separated for that long. So she was going through a huge change with being away from her brother. She had a PCA at Curtis that was with her for pretty much all of her elementary years, but she chose to not follow her on to the middle school level. So she also had a new PCA. So she was in a position with an unfamiliar environment, no staff that were aware of her challenges. She was often told by teachers here that she was in middle school. She needed to act like it. Developmentally, she was not in middle school. When Caitlin gets anxious, she grabs a hold of whatever person is closest to her and won't let go until she can get calm again. The staff in Pawtucket viewed this as something she chose to do. They believed this behavior was purposeful. She would grab the cafeteria door frames right over and hold on because she was petrified of going into the busy, loud room. She was given time in the resource room with typical peers as consequences for this behavior. It was not safe for her to be in there. There was children that were in there for actual behavior reasons. And she didn't learn to not have anxious behavior from doing that. She was given lunch detention where she would have to sit by herself as consequences, which would bring more anxiety and more negative behaviors. She would be forced to sit in inclusion classes, itinerant classes, which were often not adjusted for the kids' levels coming in from the special ed, causing great stress and anxiety for her. We had many meetings throughout the middle school years where we requested appropriate placement that would accommodate her physical, developmental, and emotional needs. We didn't get that choice. Once she moved on to the high school level, more issues arose. Over at Tolman, the building itself was not a good fit. There's one tiny elevator to be used by all the special ed students and anyone else who might have broken a leg or been physically not able to use the stairs. She would have to wait in long lines for the very slow moving elevator, causing her anxiety again. And then they would pack as many people as they could into that elevator because it was such a slow elevator, which caused, again, increased anxiety and putting people in her personal space. This was horrible for her emotional well-being. Again, she was forced to take inclusion itinerant with typical peers, a ceramics class of all, where she only has use of her right hand. She's not really going to do well in ceramics. But she was told she had to sit through it if she wanted to graduate. She also had music. To access the music class, there's a stair lift for her wheelchair to go on and go up. But her wheelchair barely fit on, causing staff and her parents to concern about falling off the edge. Then it was broken for several weeks and she couldn't even attend music class. It was really tough because she liked music and that was one that she couldn't even get to. There was no accessible bathroom for her to use. She had to squeeze by in one of the girls' rooms near the class, which was often full of teenage girls, to use a converted custodial closet at the end of those stalls. The staff at Pawtucket was just not prepared for a student with her unique needs. At the time she had an outburst, I was called to take her home at least once a week. I would have to come pick up my child. They would also place her in the school psychologist's office or the in-school detention classroom, or often in the severe and profound classroom where they couldn't control her. They did not have the skills to properly identify or redirect her anxiety, often caused by the many distractions throughout a school with 1,000 students that would cause her to startle and have anxious outbursts. Our physically disabled child, who again only has use of her right side, she had the school resource officer called on her because they were saying her behavior was assaulting the staff. I feared for her safety in that school because if she was to grab another student, they're large high school students, one of them could easily just react, hitting her in response. There were also many open stairways where being in a wheelchair made it unsafe that she could easily roll down them. So she was finally granted permission to go to NRIC in the February of 2020, we were pulled out of Pawtucket and she started the following fall at NRIC. So the reason NRIC fits our family is the staff knows how to work with kids like Caitlin. They've chosen to work with this population of kids, and they do so as a team. They all pitch in. Every single staff in that school knows my child and what her struggles are. That is not how Pawtucket schools are set up for special education, and one reason it failed my child. The very first day Caitlin started at NRIC, we were met by the OT and the PT to be sure she had everything to make her calm and functional with the transition. Caitlin started in the fall of 2020 during a challenging time for everyone. Her first year at NRIC, she had less than a handful of grabbing episodes, despite being a huge change. She, again, didn't know anyone in there, but the staff knew how to make those adjustments. They took the time to learn what her challenges would be and what would make her more stressed and bring out her negative behaviors. Their skills to redirect her when she's about to have a meltdown are because of their training, and it helps to eliminate a lot of her behaviors. The things that regular schools have, such as bells, intercoms, busy loud hallways, they're all eliminated at NRIC. By nature, it's a calmer school building, despite the population of students. Every staff member knows every child in that building. It's a large family once you walk in those doors. The children are accepted as they are, and the school works to make each individual accommodations work together. Caitlin has grab students in her class. They don't react the same way. They calmly call for a staff to come over and assist. She has been with most of these classmates since she began there, and they all get along well. It's a small little classroom. There's usually about 6 of them. And after attending for a year, the NRIC building location was changed. It caused a lot of stress and behavior challenges for Caitlin. Despite most things being the same, except for the physical building, it was a hard transition. The staff worked on getting her back to accepting the changes and moving forward. She still has struggles if she's having pain or something unexpected happens during the school day, but the staff is almost always able to redirect. In the fall, Caitlin's twin brother is moving off to a college dorm. It's going to be a very difficult transition for her. And I fear if this school closes and she does not have the support of the staff at NRIC, she'll have a very difficult year processing. Also, during your own December school committee meeting, where there was a vote to withdraw taking place, it was mentioned by Ms. Bonallo that in the past, students have been brought back to Pawtucket schools have ended up back at NRIC due to the cost of their needs. It seems you are already aware of how much these students need to succeed but can't provide it. Please consider rescinding your letter of withdrawal so that our children can keep learning and thriving. That's all. Thank you.
Next signed up is Kimberly.
My name is Kimberly Souza, and I'm the president of the Northern Rhode Island Collaborative Employees Union. After reviewing your December 19th minutes, I read that Ms. Bonolo commented that the last time you withdrew your students from the collaborative, you were not successful due to the fact that the needs of these students are so significant, not due to the people who work for you. It was also stated that you are withdrawing due to an increase in liability. In the December and January meeting at the collaborative took the liability off the table. They told all the superintendents that they have the money to cover the cost of the liability. They have made it publicly known that they have this money. Mrs. Doobie commented, can you clarify that the Northern Ireland Collaborative will still be the option? I'm wondering what information you have that our members don't have. Who is taking the collaborative over as an independent? That was stated in your minutes. So that's a question I do have. So I am here asking this committee to rescind your letter to withdraw from the collaborative and let these students continue to succeed. Thank you for your time.
Up next, Dawn.
Hi, my name's Dawn Porter. I'm the high school teacher at Foundations Academy in the social and emotional classroom. I have 10 students, 4 of which are from Pawtucket. They all have extensive needs, emotional, they become dysregulated, they have anxiety, they have multiple diagnoses. Most of them have been with us since middle school, 6th grade, 8th grade. So they've been with us a very long time. Prior to that, some of them have been at Tides, they've been at the Bradley School, they've been at the Rhode Island Alternative Academy, various other places. None of these places were able to meet their needs. We've had these kids now, most of them 5 and 6 years. They're flourishing. One student in my class has made progress from 2nd grade reading level to 7th grade reading level. They feel comfortable. They feel accepted. They feel heard. Many of them felt, and through no fault of anyone, but they felt marginalized, being, the weird kid, the quiet kid. They didn't fit in. And here they found a place where they do fit in. They are very stressed about the possibility of coming back to Shea and Tolman. They know that they weren't able to handle that before. They know what is working for them. And it would be a shame to ruin all this progress. It would be a shame to have these kids lose the security and confidence that they've created in our school. And the other thing isn't for them, it's about the kids that are currently attending the Pawtucket Public Schools. When these kids come back, if these kids come back, what is the impact on all the other children that they're going to take the time and the resources to try to maintain them? If they haven't been able to be successful at the Alternative Academy, Tides, Bradley, wherever else, they require special kind of handling. It's not something that can just easily be done, especially if you're trying to handle other students. We know how to handle these kids. We've worked with them. They are like our own children. And I think it would be a disservice to them and to the other students of Pawtucket if they were brought back to their high schools. So I'm respectfully asking that you do rescind your letter from withdrawing from the collaborative. Thank you.
You all. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the previous minutes from January 26th, February 9th, and February 28th? Can I have a motion? Motion by committee member Bonolo, seconded by committee member Doobie. Discussion on the previous minutes of those 3 meetings. On a votes, all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. On the new business, first item for discussion is the approval of the 2023-2024 school calendar. Superintendent?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Before you this evening is the draft of the 23-24 school calendar. We have worked in collaboration with multiple parties and very tightly aligned our calendar to the Rhode Island state calendar. We have also added in the right to read days for our professionals to continue their work on the right to read initiative. And those are throughout the calendar year. So this calendar is presented to you for approval. And it meets all the obligations as delineated in the state calendar and the state requirements.
Motion by committee member Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Connie and Mr. Charbonneau. Discussion. I do have a quick one because being as a sub in Smithfield, are the school calendars now lined up to meet most districts? Wasn't there something last year or the year before certain districts took April vacation differently than other districts? Do we have it lined up now? And I'm sure it's not our fault, but
No, we are 100% lined up with the state calendar. You can see on the top of your draft, this is draft 5. We had an iteration where it was April vacation was in a different spot. However, then the state sent forward a new updated calendar, and then we shifted very quickly and we adopted the state calendar. So we are in line with the state.
perfect, because I know it affected parents in Smithfield who had children that didn't go to Smithfield schools, that it was different. So that's good that the state actually worked together, but I'm sure COVID had a lot to do with that.
The LEAs do have their own unique opportunity to set their own calendar. We've chosen in collaboration with multiple parties here to mirror the state calendar.
Terrific. Good. Marcia, committee member.
Kind of elaborate on that a little bit. The school calendar originally that we received had April vacation 1 week. for this past year, and then it was changed at some point due to testing, which messed up my own family because we booked a vacation for school vacation week, based off of that calendar. So my question is, is that gonna be an issue again ever? Like, will this be it? It doesn't get changed? Like, once this is released? Because that caused a lot of problems, not only for me, but for a lot of families I heard from.
Forever and ever. That's a
Is this
very,
it?
it's a very long time, forever and ever. But do I think that this is the calendar that is based on the information that we have right now, on the latest iteration and strong recommendations of the Rhode Island Department of Education? Yes, we have built this calendar based on that. And indeed, we did have to change due to last year, their first vacation suggestion to their testing schedule, and we changed on that. I think that they also learned, and we linked to them.
Thank you.
Any other question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Next item B, food truck MOU, Miss Rabbit. Miss Rabbit will be Rico, you're gonna introduce the food truck.
Good evening. The food truck MOU is on the agenda for approval. The Menu for Success program by the Rhode Island Department of Ed is providing 13 districts in Rhode Island with a food truck or food trailer in the amount of up to $125,000. Each district needed to choose an option. Pawtucket is going with a food truck. Our menu is going to be farm to table. The Menu for Success program is to support CTE programs in the areas of culinary arts for the food portion, graphic design for wrapping the truck, accounting and entrepreneurship for business portion, and then automotive for automotive needs. So everything revolving around this food truck should be student-centered at either one of our CTE programs or a CTE program throughout the state. RIDE is partnering with the Minority Business Entrepreneurship Incubator Program to provide opportunities for BIPOC, for the BIPOC community. This program fosters relationships for our schools across the district and can include opportunities for our CTE feeder programs right here in our district. RIDE is planning an event scheduled for October 21st of this year at Chase Farm. It's the Governor's Cup and the Commissioner's Belt, which will feature all 13 districts awarded one of these food trucks or food trailers. The event is free, it's no cash, includes food sampling from each truck, as well as a battle of the bands. The winner of the best menu item will be featured at a local restaurant for 1 year. That is to be determined. There will also be an award for best truck design and best musical performance.
Terrific. Motion to approve. Motion approved by Mr. Charbonneau, seconded by Ms. Grant. Discussion, Ms. Benoit first.
Yes.
What was the date?
Oh, October 21st, 2023.
So what happens? So we get the 125. We have a food truck. It's to be used, I believe, before the end of the year, December 31st, 2023. What happens then?
What do you mean? What happens at the event or?
No, what happens with the food truck?
So the food truck is to be used by a culinary arts program at Shea High School. They can participate in different events that hire the truck to do the event.
So they will continue on in the process?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Grant?
Thank you, Rico, for bringing this forward. The question I have is, you mentioned truck or trailer.
Correct.
Do we know if we're getting a truck or a trailer?
Yeah, we're going with the food truck.
Okay,
The food trailer would have required purchasing an additional truck
truck to pull it.
to pull it.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure. Thank you.
I've also included a flyer for you. You all have one on the Menu for Success.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau.
Yeah.
Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Shalala.
Yes. Next item, YMCA, thank you, Rico. Next item, YMCA Camp Westwood. Ms. Kutamash.
Good evening. Before you this evening is a proposal for the Pawtucket YMCA MOU and independent contractor agreement. We are requesting you to approve this MOU between the Pawtucket YMCA and the Pawtucket School Department for summer enrichment programming beginning July 5th and extending through August 18th. The summer enrichment partnership with the Pawtucket School District will run those dates again, July 5th through August 18th, and will include all children who participate from the Pawtucket School District to experience a YMCA outdoor camp each week. The YMCA will provide the facilities, equipment, supplies, programming, and staffing to run a day-long summer camp, which will include aquatic programming, swimming, canoeing, paddleboarding, etc. Previous committee action included ESSER 3 program application approval, inclusive of enrichment programming. Attached in your folio, you'll find the YMCA MOU and an enrollment packet available upon request. The summer enrichment programming will be a collaborative effort with the Pawtucket School Department, Pawtucket YMCA, Aramark Food Services, and our enrolled students and families. This MOU has been vetted by the School Department Legal Counsel, and funding for this program has been allocated through the Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Funds. Summer enrichment program will be a collaborative effort, and we are recommending action this evening that you approve the MOU between the Pawtucket School Department and Pawtucket YMCA as an independent student enrichment contractor.
Motion by Committee Member Charbonneau, seconded by Committee Member Bonolo. Discussion, Ms. Doobie.
Thank you for bringing this forward. I know last year we had these MOUs. I know both of my children were able to participate in these programs with our various partners. I think it's a wonderful way for us to partner with community organizations who have a proven track record of running excellent summer programming. My question is, all of them have about the same language. So I'll ask it on this one, but I imagine it applies to all of them. It says, for instance, this one says, engaging up to 150 children via lottery in large outdoor group games. And like I said, the ones going forward, they have different numbers, but they all use the same language, engaging X number of children via lottery. So I know that I spoke up last year about what is our process for getting these students to understand the lottery is happening. I know I had parents who said, well, I already signed up for YMCA camp and paid for it. Can I still do this? And there was a lot of confusion around that. So can you please clearly spell out, does this mean my daughter's in 5th grade? There are various camps here that are eligible, that 5th graders are eligible for. Does this mean her 5th grade class will get a list of all of the 5th grade programs, and then the parents will check off the ones they want to enter into the lottery for? They'll receive the acceptance and then we'll go from there. Is that basically how it's working?
That is basically how it's working.
Okay.
There is a formal procedure on file for the enrichment lottery. The school department met over the last several months to establish that procedure. We do have it and can share that with the committee if they'd like to see it. Essentially, it's a 10-step procedure that includes various communication strategies that you pretty much articulated. And we also are activating our summer parent page. You may remember that from last year, specifically for enrichment programming. So that allows us to communicate information in real time and in multiple languages as it's being released. But all of the letters for the grade level appropriate will go home with those students, all those opportunities.
Okay, wonderful. I just think these, like I said, going forward through all these MOUs, I know I'm speaking about this first one, but all of them are wonderful partnerships. And I just want to make sure that if we have the availability to service 150 children through the YMCA, that we're making sure that 150 children are, that we really try to reach out and engage as many students as possible in this. So just to clarify, the entire class gets a general letter that says, you know, here's the various camps you are eligible for.
So I'll iterate. If I can read directly from the procedure, just so that we're clear. The first step is to identify the students who scored in the on-grade level range on both the reading and math iReady diagnostic assessments for K through 8, and consider teacher recommendation for non-proficient students. Additional proficiency criteria for 6 through 12 will be considered based on failures and the need for content and credit recovery. So students who are identified by any educator for this that haven't met proficiency, they'll receive the information. And for any student who is proficient on their assessments, will also receive that letter. Our other students will receive the letter for our Title I programming and academic credit and content recovery. Step 2 is to provide students and families with details of the offerings to include time, transportation, duration, and provision of food services. Families whose children qualify and complete the application process will be entered into the lottery for their specifically chosen enrichment opportunities. At that time, we will activate our summer parent page, as I mentioned, and then begin to collect the information back from the school sites to sort the students who will be entered into the lottery.
Thank you. Sorry, I know someone else has a question. So I just want to clarify. So it's not a lottery that's just all students in the 5th grade. I'm using 5th grade as an example, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the students who are proficient on our assessments can be entered into this lottery. And
Yes.
then in addition, teachers can make recommendations to put students into this lottery, and that would be honored.
Absolutely. Yes,
based
that's
on
the
teacher
that's
making a
the
recommendation.
Absolutely. That's the addendum to the procedure that we didn't have last year.
Okay, so for instance, if a teacher thinks that the student is, they've struggled a bit, but they could really benefit from X, Y, or Z, this arts camp, then that would be, and that's in the procedure.
That is in the procedure.
Thank you.
Marsha?
So only kids that are proficient in reading and math are able to go to camp, to be our, is that what you're saying?
So,
'Cause that doesn't
and
sound
any
right
child
at
who,
all.
any child who scores proficient on the assessments or who is recommended by their teacher. And the rationale for that is, as a Title I school-wide program district, we're accountable for a certain percentage of students who need academic content and credit recovery attending that programming, so that we can ensure spend down of funds and federal grants and ensure that we're not essentially giving money back to the federal government by ensuring that our programs for recovery are large enough in scope, because that's a federal requirement.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
The kids who need this most aren't probably going to be able to go. That's what I'm confused about.
Is there an option? So I don't like to, first of all, talk about Title I, enrichment over the summer as a force of spending money, right? We don't provide Title I services to kids over the summer because we have to spend our money. We do it to provide opportunities for kids to recover learning. So perhaps in thinking about with to Marcia's discussion point, an opportunity for students who are going to receive Title I services over the summer to then be able to have some type of hybrid opportunity to be able, and I don't know if that's an option, if it's something that we could possibly work out with Boys and Girls Club or YMCA, or even to bring a service into Pawtucket for a community partner that would be able to come and do enrichment with some physical education, SEL, whatever it might be, so that they also have a summer experience outside of just reading and math remediation.
Okay, so that relationship does exist, and our internal child opportunity zone provides those enrichment opportunities. They contract with several community-based organizations. So every child in Pawtucket receives enrichment who attends our credit or content recovery ramp-up program.
I think I would just, and from my past in working with Pawtucket, we did not have the opportunity to send certain kids. We did provide, vendors, the community partners to come in, but just making sure that it's equitable, that those opportunities are equitable for kids. To clarify the dates too, there are two different dates here. The summary says July 10th, and then the additional background says it'll start July 5th.
So the YMCA, I'm sorry, is July 5th to August 18th. I'm not sure where you're seeing the 10th.
The Pawtucket Boys and Girls Club MOU, an independent contract.
So we're on the YMCA.
But this has two different dates too. So are all of these running the same dates or?
No, the dates are staggered for each MOU.
Okay, when we get to this one, I'll ask again then, because there's just two different dates here. So I'm looking at that one. Okay, thank you.
Because it is a question, and I know when my daughters were young, they actually did the summer programs in school, which they found to be very boring because they were going from school back to school for their summer vacation. So could you let us know what kind of appealing things the students will be provided to them?
I can absolutely speak to my colleague, Mary Perella, who coordinates and directs all of the Child Opportunity Zone offerings.
Because it's like, okay, if they're gonna go swimming or go bowling or, you know, these things, if I have an A and I am proficient, then I get to go to camp and I get to have a lot of fun with my friends and go boarding and paddling and boating and swimming but because I struggle and I'm not proficient, I can't. So we stop the penalization in the schools that they're gonna follow through with the rest of their life. And that's really isn't fair. You know, because it's not fair. So I would like to see if students are going to be in schools, then they need more than a half a day of enjoyment out of. I know we have to help our children move forward, but they need more, they need pleasure. And this is their vacation too. That's all.
Just a general comment. I think we need to be careful about that we're penalizing students. And maybe that was a misspeak, Ms. Bonillo, I'm not sure, but I'm concerned that that's going to be the takeaway from this, is that somehow the district is penalizing students who aren't proficient and require some content recovery. I think there's two different discussions happening around this one discussion. And I want to make sure that I state for the record that I believe the district offers opportunities for every student in the district. That was it.
Okay, if I can be educated on it, because I agree with you, Mr. Charbonneau, I think there is a few conversations happening here. Is there a ride or is there a policy procedure on we can't open it up to every child in the classroom?
There is not anything legally binding us to the internal procedure that the team has created. You can absolutely request an addendum to that procedure. But over the past 6 months, the team has been meeting regularly across the programming departments. And in order to fulfill our obligations as an LEA and to ensure students receive different levels of programming, this was the agreement all of the programming departments came to.
Okay. Any other discussion? Clerk, go ahead.
Just like follow up on some type of hybrid opportunities and some exploration of outdoor and physical education, SEL kind of opportunities for all students that would also receive Title I.
Okay. Clerk, when you're free, call the roll.
Ms. Bonillo, Ms. Carney, Mr. Charbonneau, Ms. Doobie, Ms. Fernandez, Ms. Grant, Mr. Shalal.
Next item. Boy Scouts Camp, Champlain MOU, Ms. Kudamashu, you take the podium again.
Thank you. So this is a request to approve the MOU between the National Council for Boy Scouts of America and the Pawtucket School Department for summer enrichment programming July 5th through August 4th. The summer enrichment partnership with the Pawtucket School Department will include up to 60 children via lottery who participate from our district to experience an outdoor camp each week. The organization will provide the facilities, equipment, supplies, programming, etc., for a day-long summer camp that includes aquatic programming, archery, BMX, etc. Previous committee action includes the ESSER 3 program application approval, inclusive of enrichment programming. Attached, you'll find the MOU, and again, the enrollment packet available upon request. The summer enrichment programming will be a collaborative effort with the Pawtucket School Department, NCBSA, and our enrolled students and families. The MOU has been vetted by the school department legal representation, and funding for this program has been allocated through the elementary and secondary emergency relief funds. The recommended action for this evening is your approval of the MOU between NCBSA as an independent student enrichment contractor.
Motion by Ms. Manolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Discussion, Ms. Manolo?
Just a question, and it said it in the MOU in the recap. It says educational activities. Can you expound on those?
Educational activities for the camp?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So a traditional camp experience that includes aquatic programming, swimming, canoeing, archery, BMX, educational activities. And if I have a representative in our audience this evening from Boy Scouts, if you'd like to just expand a little bit on that for the committee.
Sure. So as far as the educational, we really is focused on, so it's really focused on the outdoor skills. We do get into STEM, we get into nature appreciation, we get into crafts. It's a little bit of everything, but it's really that outdoor camp experience. All right.
Can students overlap and do both programs?
So unfortunately for the enrichment, sending students off-site, they cannot. But you will hear shortly from my colleague, Mr. Pimentel, that we worked to get some overlap for other enrichment offerings that are not taking our students off-site.
Okay, thank you.
Process for all of these that we're gonna hear. This is again, all these, only the kids that are proficient are gonna be able to qualify for. I just don't want to keep asking the same question.
I will just iterate one more time. It's also this year to include teacher recommendations. So we may have students who are not proficient being recommended.
Any other questions?
I will be voting to approve all well, I'll be voting to approve this one. Let me hear about the rest of them. But the ones that say via lottery, because in this language, the only language that it says in this MOU that I'm looking at says that 200 children via lottery will be able to take part in this program. And there's nothing in this MOU. I read, through to see if on their side or on our side, there was any language. There's no language around this procedure. So can we put on a future agenda to look at this procedure for all of these programs so that we can have a better understanding of it? You said it was 10 steps, and just so we can better hear how that's going to work. Because like I said, I don't see anything in the MOU that says that this is only for our proficient students.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
To piggyback what Committee Member Doobie, you indicated there was a team that came up with this. Who's the team?
That's a great question. So Acting Superintendent Ramsey, Assistant Superintendent Lee Rabbit, all of your programming directors across the departments met. We had a large stakeholder committee and really discussed the language around what we had last year and how to make improvements for this year.
The amendment, what does the teachers know about the amendment?
So we have several folks within our departments who are part of the union. But again, this was an internal process.
But is the teacher gonna be made aware that they can submit someone that is not proficient?
Of course.
Okay.
That,
So it'll
yes,
be an
we
internal
haven't,
Memo or
that's, yeah, we have not released any language until we had approval on the MOUs.
Thank you. All right, clerk, any other questions on the Boy Scout one? Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Shabana. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Next item, Ms. Codemarch, again, but this will be for the Girl Scouts Camp Hoffman, MOU.
Yes, so before you this evening, a request to approve the MOU between the Girl Scouts of Southeastern New England and the Pawtucket School Department for programming beginning July 10th through August 4th. This will include up to 200 seats for children who participate from the Pawtucket School Department to experience an outdoor camp each week. Girl Scouts of Southern New England will provide the facilities, equipment, supplies, programming, and staffing to run a day-long summer camp, which again will include aquatic programming like swimming, canoeing, paddleboarding, and a robust daily curriculum engaging up to 200 children. They also have nature programming, low ropes courses, and educational activities. A one-year membership will also be included to the Girl Scouts of Southern New England for our students. Previous committee action included an ESSER 3 program application approval, inclusive of enrichment programming. Attached in your folio, you'll find the GSSNE MOU and enrollment packet upon request. The summer enrichment programming will be a collaborative effort with the Pawtucket School Department, GSSNE, and our enrolled students and families. The MOU has been vetted by the Pawtucket School Department Legal Counsel, and funding for this program has been allocated through the elementary and secondary emergency relief funds. Recommended action this evening is to approve the MOU between the Pawtucket School Department and GSSNE as an independent student enrichment contractor.
Motion by Mr. Charbonneau, seconded by Ms. Grant. Discussion. Of course, Ms. Khan.
I'm looking through and I'm just wanting to make sure that any of our students that have a disability or do not speak English as a first language, that all of our students have opportunities and resources at these programs as well.
Of course. I do have a representative specifically in the audience from GSSNE if you'd like to have further clarification also from the organization.
Foundations or for any of our students that need any additional resources outside of a traditional experience.
Yes, we do offer inclusive environment, and so there are accommodations for our members or anyone who would attend camp, and also have staff available who are bilingual to address anyone with those needs.
Okay, and I'm assuming that all of the information from even our partners on the enrichment programs would go out in multiple languages?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else?
Absolutely.
Girl Scouts gave, I can't remember, like 20 scholarships to girls in foster care for the overnight camp. And my foster daughter was lucky enough to go. And it was amazing. And that's why I feel so strongly that kids who need this type of exposure get it. So thank you for that, because it was a great experience for her. And she's not proficient in any academics, but boy, oh boy, did she thrive going to this camp. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Shabana. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Next item, the Boys and Girls Club MOU.
Yes, this evening before you is a request to approve the MOU between the Pawtucket Boys and Girls Club and the Pawtucket School Department for summer enrichment programming, July 10th through August 18th. The Boys and Girls Club will provide an enrichment summer camp experience at Camp George R. Ramsbottom for up to 150 PSD elementary school students via lottery specifically in grades 3 through 5. Camp begins on, that should say July 10th, and continue Monday through Friday until August 18th. The Boys and Girls Club shall conduct the program in accordance with the quality standards established by their American Camping Association certification. The Boys and Girls Club will provide one annual membership for each student enrolled in the program, providing them with access to programs as a full member for 1 year. Previous committee action includes ESSER 3 program application approval, inclusive of enrichment programming. Attached in your folio, you'll find the BGC MOU and again, enrollment packets available upon request. The MOU has been vetted by the Pawtucket School Department Legal Counsel, and funding for this program has been allocated through the elementary and secondary emergency relief funds. Recommended action for this evening is to approve the MOU between the Pawtucket School Department and the Pawtucket Boys and Girls Club as an independent student enrichment contractor.
Motion made by Committee Member Charbonneau, seconded by Committee Member Grant. Discussion. Wait, before anyone signs off, the date will be adjusted.
The date will be
to-
adjusted. I
reflect the 10th.
apologize, July
No.
10th.
It all happens. Just what? Oh, Mr. Charbonneau. Sorry,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a shout out to the Boys and Girls Club, Jim and team, for the work they provide to the community, but you know, year round, but certainly in the times of crisis like we had with winters, and they stepped up and worked, you know, to kind of troubleshoot with us, and just a tremendous community partner. And so I just wanted to recognize Jim and the Boys and Girls Club. So thank you.
Absolutely. Second that. Any other discussion? Ms. Bernal.
So, busing. So is it going to have trackers for families again?
So that's a great question. For this specific MOU, the busing is provided by the Boys and Girls Club. So we will not be using Pawtucket School Department buses.
On the other ones?
So again, for those MOUs, individually, we are providing busing to those locations. Are you referring to the parent app?
Yes.
I believe that will be accessible, but I will double check with our transportation director.
Trying to make that become a reality so they can track that in the parent app.
Okay, it was helpful last year.
Any other questions? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
All right, next one, I think we'll switch it off. It's the approval or motion for New England Tech MOU.
Hello again. The request before you is to approve an MOU between New England Institute of Technology and the Pawtucket School Department for summer enrichment programming from July 10th to August 4th. It's a 4-week program. The New England Institute of Technology will conduct a summer camp with a maximum cohort of 12 campers in current grades 8 through 11. New England Tech will accommodate up to 2 cohorts for a total of 24 students. Acceptance into the program will be on lottery basis. New England Tech will utilize both the East Greenwich and the Warwick campus to hold camp. Camp will be from 9 a.m. to 3. With a lunch break for students. Lunch will be provided by New England Tech. Transportation to and from New England Tech will be provided by the Pawtucket School Department. The New England Tech summer camp will include the following activities in automotive, criminal justice, digital media production, digital photography, drone and robotics, esports entrepreneurship, food service, healthy kitchen, physical therapy assistant. The this MOU has been vetted by the school department's legal representation. Funding for this program will be allocated through ESSER funding. The summer enrichment program will be a collaborative effort between the Pawtucket School Department, New England Institute of Technology, and our enrolled students and families. The recommended action is approval of the New England Institute of Technology MOU.
Motion to approve by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Doobie. Discussion. Ms. Bonolo?
On the classroom lab activities, will the students pick one or will they be exposed to all of these things?
I actually have Mr. Doug Lee here. I'll invite him up to the podium from New England Tech.
Notes for this? Thank you. What was your question again?
So there's automotive, criminal justice, and on.
Okay.
Will the students that are in the camp pick one, or will they be exposed to a portion of each?
They'll get exposed to everything. What we did last year and what we hope to do this year is give an opportunity for students who might have an interest in an area to see what it's like. If you've ever been to New England Tech, our automotive lab has 44 lift bays. They get exposed to that. If you've been in our digital media production lab, we have an audio studio. We have a 3-camera video studio and production equipment. What we try to do is give students an opportunity to do a project in each of those areas. And we don't know if it's going to direct them down the road to take those up as maybe a career opportunity or an educational opportunity. But we feel it's important. I will say, I think we hit a home run on most of them last year. There were a couple where students, it wasn't their main interest, but they enjoyed the fact that they were there for maybe a half a day or only a full day. Any other questions?
Questions?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, for Rico. Okay.
Out of these 8 classroom/lab activities, in our high school, for CTE programs, how many of them do we offer?
So all of these programs, I worked with Mr. Lee to make sure they're aligned to our programs.
Okay.
So they are all aligned to our program.
So we have an automotive program?
Well, no, we don't, but we have Z Space, which students can do automotive on that platform. Not as a class, but they can take.
Well, I guess where I'm kind of heading with this is, because we don't offer fully these CTEs, I'm just wondering how many students, when they come back, might look to possibly go out of district to kind of further themselves in regards to this. So I'm just wondering.
For that, for the automotive.
I'm kind of wondering in all of them.
So we do have, so I'm sorry, with the exception of automotive, we do have criminal justice, digital media production, digital photography. We do have robotics and drones. Esports is part of our video programming, and food services, culinary, and physical therapy. We have the community health worker.
Okay, so if someone in our district went and decided they wanted to go into the medical field, and they came back and they came to our school, this wouldn't be a child who would look to maybe go to Davies.
No,
or
because
to
we
East
have,
Providence.
we would direct them to the biomedical program at Shea, as
Okay.
well as the community health program at Shea.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Miss, do we first? Oh, Miss Connie.
So we're throwing elbows for this. I just have a question about the first week here. It said that food service will not be available week 1 of camp. Could you go into detail on?
Hello. No. So the first week, we're gonna have Aramark provide a to-go lunch. So they will take the to-go lunches, but the other weeks will be provided by New England Tech. And the reason for that is this food service program at New England Tech is not, that's an off week for New England Tech. So students are not on campus that week, other than our students.
Any other question? Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney, Mr. Charbonneau, Ms. Doobie, Ms. Fernandez. Is that a yes? Ms. Grant, Mr. Shalal.
Thank you. Next one, First Works, MOU.
Yes. The request is to approve an MOU between First Works and the Pawtucket School Department for summer enrichment programming July 5th through August 4th. First Works will provide artist workshops, supplies, programming, and staffing to run full-day camps July 5th through August 4th with a focus in music, dance, theater, and visual arts. Professional artists, excursion to arts and cultural venues, arts engagement activities with a culminating arts presentation, are part of this program for up to 40 students in current grades 5 through 8. Acceptance to the program, again, will be on lottery basis. First Works, this is new from last year. First Works will also hire up to 4 Pawtucket High School students, 16 plus, to serve as teaching assistants for the camp. Attached is the First Works MOU, as well as the timeline and sample schedule and budget. The district goal is to provide additional enrichment opportunities to Pawtucket students that are exploratory in alignment with the requirements under ESSER. This MOU has been vetted by our legal representation. Funding for this program is through ESSER funding. The summer enrichment program will be a collaboration effort between the Pawtucket School Department, First Works, and our enrolled students and families. The recommendation is approval of the First Works MOU.
Motion by Ms. Doobie, seconded by Ms. Grant. Okay, discussion. Ms. Doobie?
So I remember this one from last year, and I think it's wonderful that there's the addition of hiring 4 of our high school students who are able to work at the program. It's right here. It's going to be held in this.
It's actually going to be held, I believe, at Green this year.
Oh, okay, but it's going to be
Yeah.
held in the Pawtucket
Yes.
environment. So they will be able to get there. But my question on that was, are we going to, I would imagine we will allow those teachers' assistants to also ride the bus to get to the program?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that was my question.
Thank you. Ms. Bonolo, you had a question?
I can retract my question. I'll ask it anyways in case. Well, I think it's all of it. So all of the camps that our students are going to, everybody will have national criminal
Absolutely.
background check,
100%.
all
Yes.
staff?
Yes.
Okay.
Rico, Ms. Marsha, go ahead.
I'm just going to clear. Same procedure?
For this program,
For
yes.
this one, okay.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Out of the 40 students, is that where they're gonna get the 4 hires, or is it gonna be 40 students?
No,
Plus it's gonna be 4.
40 students plus the 4 high schools. So this program is for students in grades 5 through 8.
Oh, and then
The
they're gonna
4
hire.
high school students would
Gotcha.
be,
All right.
This is one that I know because I visited that it was under enrolled last year. I don't know how many of our other ones were.
Yeah.
But I've been adding up these numbers and there's quite a few opportunities and I'm hoping that we are ensuring that we're getting this message out there so parents can take advantage.
we're waiting for the MOU approvals to send out information.
Everything here is priced, so if we don't send enough students, are we still paying the full price?
For this particular
For the
MOU,
agreements?
for this particular MOU, it's tiered. So depending on the number of students we send.
Is that for all of them? No?
No.
Can you address that, please?
For the previous 4 MOUs that were shared, you will only pay the price per student that you send. There is not a tiered track.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? With that, clerk, please call a roll.
Ms. Spinello. Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Yes. All right, Rico, we're gonna ask you to stay up there for the American Safety Programs, MOUs.
All right. This is a request to approve an MOU between American Safety Programs and Training and the Pawtucket School Department for summer enrichment programming, July 5th through August 4th. The American Safety Programs and Training will provide public safety enrichment programming for 50 to 55 students in current grades 8 through 11 in the areas of criminal justice, EMS, firefighting, forensics, and other public safety professions. The programming will be from July 5th through August 4th from 12:30 to 3:30 at the American Safety Programs and Training Facilities at 150 Niantic Avenue in Providence. Students enrolled in this program will also receive CPR and first aid training and certifications. Previous committee action, ESSER 3 program application approval inclusive of the enrichment programming. Before you is the American Safety Programs and Training MOU. Different from the other MOUs, this one is not Yeah, it's not. So it's inclusive of all students, yes. The district goal is to provide additional enrichment opportunities for Pawtucket students that are exploratory in alignment with the career and technical education programs. This MOU has been vetted by our legal department, and the community involvement, I'm sorry, funding for this program has been allocated through ESSER funding, and community involvement will be the summer enrichment program, will be a collaborative between Pawtucket School Department, American Safety Programs and Training, and our enrolled students and families. The recommendation is approval of the MOU between American Safety Programs and the Pawtucket School Department. I also have Mr. Al Peterson here from American Safety, if you'd like to talk to him.
Motion to approve by Ms. Grant, seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Questions? Ms. Bonolo leads.
So this one, unlike the others, is not for a full day. It's from 12:30 to 3:30.
Correct.
So I'm just wondering how many of our students are going to want to split their day and at 12:30 say, I want to go take a bus and go to training.
And the reasoning behind the timing was
Yeah.
so that we could offer it to all of those students and not have just the students that qualify. So we wanted to make sure that all of our high school students that want to be part of this could be part of it for this program. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the students that
Okay,
require
so that
academic,
would allow them
yes,
to go there
correct,
afterwards.
yeah.
And this is, will they get training like we did last summer?
Yep, they'll get training, but in different areas, not just firefighting. It'll be firefighting, law enforcement.
EMS,
Yeah,
law enforcement, okay.
you're welcome.
Any other discussion? With that, please, clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Bonolo, Ms. Carney, Mr. Charbonneau, Ms. Doobie, Mr. Sorry, Ms. Fernandez, Ms. Grant, Mr. Shalal.
Thank you very much. This one now, the Empowerment Factory MOU is gonna be over to the superintendent.
Yes, thank you. This evening, I present to you the Empowerment Factory is seeking to provide Fallon Elementary students in collaboration with the community school at Fallon the opportunity to participate in a social emotional enrichment class, which will be a part of SEL instruction in collaboration with the first grade teachers and itinerants at Fallon Elementary School. The program is based on current approved curricula from Boys Town and Rethink Ed. These enrichment classes include reading, engaging discussions, collaborative on fun, hands-on projects, as well as the importance of friendship, empathy, social contribution, self-advocacy, and cooperation and focus. Students will learn whole body listening, fairness, conflict resolution, safe and ethical behavior, and practice positive thinking. The Empowerment Factory will provide 6 40-minute SEL sessions for the students in first grade, with each class receiving 6 class sessions. Classes will be held at Fallon in the classroom during the SEL instructional block. You have the MOU in your packet. The goal is to create positive partnerships that support Pawtucket students. The MOU has been vetted through legal counsel and is funded with grant funds APRA awarded to the Empowerment Factory from the city of Pawtucket. Recommended action is the school committee to approve the Empowerment Factory MOU Fallon Elementary School as recommended.
Motion by Ms. Grant, seconded by Ms. Doobie. Discussion. Ms. Bonolo.
So question, how many students is this open to?
All of our first grade, it was open to all of our first grade, so it's 80, approximately 85.
Okay, so if you don't get 85 students that want to go, will you open it to students from other schools?
So the school day.
Oh, it's during.
It's during the school day, with the teachers.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but to answer your question, this enrichment opportunity is something that in the future we would look to refine and repeat and duplicate in other settings with the support of the faculty of other schools.
Okay.
We're
thank you.
seeking funding to try to expand.
It looks like an excellent program. I like it. And when I saw it, it would be nice if we could have it in more schools. So good work.
Thank you. And the one thing that I can say about the community at Fallon is that the librarian is also involved, the health teacher, the music teacher. So they're the art, right. And we're also doing 24 sessions. Each will be doing art projects in the art room and then bringing like the puppets and other things into the classroom to work with the teachers and providing additional staff to work alongside the teachers and support them in their efforts.
Ms. Doobie.
So I know how much work goes into writing these grants, and that work was done by you and your team, and
Yes.
you secured the grant money, and you're now choosing to spend that money to give back to our community. And I thank you so much for deciding to come and continue to be such an asset to our district and our Pawtucket community at large.
Golly.
Any other, Ms. Connie?
Why grade one was chosen? Just curious.
Very good question. When we originally started assessing the SEL needs that we wanted to do, it was a matter of funding and collaboration. I feel that a program like this could be adapted to other grades, but by allowing the first graders to get this, these skills will help them along their path.
Mentally designed essentially for that age group?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Very specifically, all the books, all the
Okay.
activities.
That's what I
all
was
the art
wondering why
projects.
grade one
Yeah,
was
it's
chosen.
designed for first grade.
Okay.
Not that every grade couldn't use this, but we hope that by giving it to first grade, that gives them a baseline. And also, these are the children that were probably the most affected by the disruption of COVID because they had no normalcy for social and emotional cues, being able to.
Any other questions? When none, clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very
For
much.
your hard work. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the letter K. Approval of budget transfer. Ms. Devine, please.
Evening, I have one budget transfer request for approval this evening. It's from the Facilities Department. It's for $22,000 and it's for sprinkler and fire panel upgrades at both Tolman and Fallon. And the Facilities Department would like to reclass 12,000 from the snowplow sanding services line and 10,000 from the custodial supplies line and place it into the fire and safety services purchase service line.
Motion to approve by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Doobie and Ms. Grant. Questions, Ms. Grant?
Yeah, how do we have $10,000 extra in custodial supplies?
Because we have some extra supplies and I can let John speak to it, but I believe that during COVID, we kind of had funding that allowed us to stock up on some of the stuff. And so he's able to reduce.
We hoarded a lot of stuff during COVID.
Okay.
And then there's no snow this year.
Yeah, just, no, $10,000 from custodial supplies.
Yeah,
just
that's
sounded
pretty,
like
that's a
lot of
pretty good
money.
line. That's a pretty
Yeah.
big line that we have anyhow, but yes, 10,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know you didn't mean it as a dig, but thank you for reminding me that we canceled the meeting for 2 inches of rain last week and I apologize. to
Listen,
this whole body.
I was in Florida and I changed my flight to the following day. We thought we were gonna have the blizzard of 78.
Yes,
Cost me $100 extra.
yes. So I do apologize to this body and to everyone out there for canceling for 2 inches of rain, but your snow plowing and sanding services have been great this.
Yes,
winter.
love it.
Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the portable stage RFP, Mr. Silva.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
We're here requesting approval of a portable stage to be used for the Shea graduation and any other district uses that we need for it. It was necessitated by the graduation for Shea is held outdoors, and we've been using platforms from the city. They were wooden platforms, and we were informed that they rotted out and they're no longer for use. So we needed the stage. We went out on an RFP for a 16 by 24 portable stage with side and back rails with adjustable stairs. The stage height is adjustable from 32 inches to 55 inches. We received one response to our RFP, and it was from Stage Drop LLC for a total of $18,255.19. The facilities is recommending that the school committee accept their bid for the portable stage.
Motion, well, go ahead. Motion to approve by Ms. Doobie, seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Discussion. Mr. Charbonneau.
Chris, 16 by 24?
16 by 24, yes. We used to use, we did 16 by 16, I think it was, the green platforms. They were 2 by 4, I believe, and we stacked them all together. They weren't even connected or anything, the old ones.
Why do I feel like it was much bigger than that?
No, this one is actually bigger than the stage that we were using.
Okay.
That was gonna be my question, Mr. Shabbat. It sounds small. You still use the stage to put the members of the school committee, the superintendent on it? and
Exactly.
The students walk across.
Yep.
And
Yep.
16 by 24 is
Yes.
large enough?
Yep.
All right. And, Masha, anything? No? Any other conversation? I'm just, why, just educate, why is there only one person that's putting in for
I do not know.
supply chain issues? Is it?
We sent it out to 3 or 4 different companies, and this was the only one that responded.
Okay, and what type of, what's it?
It's a 4 by 8 platforms
Yep.
that construct together, that are clipped together. Yeah, it's constructed out of aluminum, and they have the square steel adjustable legs to it.
And you plan on utilizing it for other events inside the school
Yes,
district?
because it's adjustable, it could be used for either middle school, elementary school, or the high school level.
We add on to it if we.
Yes,
get it and
yes, we can
realize-
always add on to it, yes.
All right. Any other discussion? With hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Bonolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Yes. All
Thank you.
right, thank you very much. Chris. Installation of 16 additional door access controls. Hirsch, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. Before you is a proposal here to increase our security within our buildings. As you know, in the last few years, we've done a lot of security upgrades. Part of the factors that took in place why we didn't do all the doors was budget. We had to cut down some doors. So what I'm proposing here, this is part of a grant that we received, the Health and Safety Grant to RIDE for health and security upgrades to our buildings. There were about 16 doors that we find that used during recess time, where some of the doors that are used during recess time don't have swipes on them. So we're using like other doors for the student to get in. So this is to add additional doors, swipe access to these doors. And what we did is we identified the doors with the building principals, which doors that they had, that they needed these additional swipes. It went out for bid off of the MPA. For help, we had 4 vendors that we solicited bids from. 2 of them responded. And the request here is to award it to National for $59,000. They were $10,000 cheaper than the other bid.
Motion to approve by Ms. Grant. Seconded by Ms. Connie. Ms. Grant.
So I'm just trying to think about how I'm gonna phrase this. So I went and visited a school. And when I visited the school, you know, we're spending all this money on safety and security, and some of our schools aren't using it. And it's very concerning there. And we have these beautiful vestibules. Schools are talking to families through windows. They're walking outside to let families in the vestibules instead of buzzing them in. And, you know, and I guess there's a couple of things, you know, if there's a problem, then I would hope that the schools would bring these to our attention. So whether it be the superintendent, the principals, to yourself, but you know, we've had over the years, a lot of professionals come in and help us with safety. There was one school right after Texas, what happened in, God forbid, what happened in Texas, I walked out of a classroom and the door was held open because they were, you know, no one was in sight, they were down. I just want to make sure that we do remind our principals, our teachers, that, you know, and it's not, you know, to be complaining, but God forbid if something ever happened. And I know we've had professionals come in, security, people come in with our contractors to go over what the what safety things we could do. And I know our district has put a lot of money into it. And I'd just like to really stress, and I'd like to see our administration stress, our principals stress it, and your department also, Harsh, how important it is that they use these doors the proper way. We never want anyone to get hurt, whether it be a student, a staff member, a parent. And with what I've been seeing, and I hate to say it, but it could happen here. We don't want it to. And, but you know, $60,000 is a lot of money. And if we are going to spend this money, then we need to make sure that the staff is utilizing these things put in place the correct way. So, you know, of course, I'm definitely going to approve it, but I think with that being said, it does need to be, our districts do need to be, our schools need to be reminded why things were put in place.
I agree
So,
with you 100%. Yeah,
thank
I
you.
believe that it should be. And like you said, it's, you know, Monday night quarterback is an easy position to play, you know, after the fact, but we need to make sure that it's every issue is treated.
And when it comes to safety, if there is a particular problem, that safety should go right to the top.
Yep.
So if a vestibule buzz isn't working, or then someone needs to be notified, and that needs to be put in place. It needs to be fixed. Because if something does happen, you know, it's a big guilt to live with, I would think.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure everyone's safe.
I
So
agree.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Charbonneau.
Hirsch, so 16 doors for 60 grand. And it, unfortunately, due to budget, some doors were not wired.
In phase one and phase two, phase two, this is basically more of a phase two, because that's when we did the elementary schools. And at the time when that budget had gone out, if you remember, it was like $1 million over budget. And at the time, some of the doors had been cut at the time, and that's why all the doors weren't done to the building. So this would be to add those additional wires. So what this is to do is to run the wire and then the mercury boards that control each of them, and the actual swipes that are on the outside. That's what this project.
So I hear you and I get it, but I was under the assumption, and I'm gonna ask that Melissa or John clarify for us, that we had already put key fabs on every door in this district.
No, not on all the exterior doors. Some of them
So-
have been cut back.
So do these 16 doors complete the district?
No, we, part of this health and safety grant, we received a certain allocation at the time. There was the 500,000 was broken down in certain ways. We set this out to get that barometer of how much it was going to cost for each of these doors. And now we're going to do is check the other doors that we need to do district-wide to be able to keep adding more of these to the exterior, because not every exterior door has a fob on it.
Okay, then I think we need to clarify, is Jared's here from Colliers, right? I'm curious as to, we spent all this money on key fabs. How is it that we left the playground doors undone? I mean, that would have been, I would think, the entry door and the playground doors are the two you want to make sure you get done first.
And
the
some of
other
the
side doors,
And in some of the buildings, some of the playground doors, they may have been using a different playground at the time. I think in that first phase, when they identified with the architects which doors they picked, I think it was like 5 or 6 doors per building in phase 1. And then they added additional doors. Since then, we've added a few doors, but the goal is to have every exterior door with that. Now, some doors that were left out on purpose are the doors that are like utility doors. They're not used by people, like a furnace room door or things like that. That might come into the building, but it's not used by any people. They don't actually have even handles on them. But not every door has a fob.
but these existing doors still have keys?
Correct. They just with no fob access, they only have key access to these doors. And just for one thing also for clarification, in case you're wondering, not every elementary is on here. Because the other elementaries where work was done, such as Potter and Green, and the New Winters building, those received the fobs on those doors. And the only other school here is missing is Baldwin, because we're in construction with that school, but those other schools were left off this list because they already had received exterior fobs on the doors.
And just to clarify, all the doors are locked.
Correct.
So all the exterior doors to our school have locking capabilities. We're talking about
Badge access.
that instead of having locking capabilities where someone needs a key to open it, there's locking capabilities so that people can badge in.
Correct. So there.
And to discourage, as Ms. Grant brought up, that without that, some teachers might be encouraged to like prop doors or do other things if they're just going out for a second.
Absolutely. Yes. So all of them have locks. It's more of the badge access on those doors. And unfortunately, there was doors that were left out at the time. I was told for budgetary reasons and things like that, because there's nothing that makes it easier for us than saying, why doesn't this door have a fob on it? It was to fob them all.
Go ahead, Ms. Fenola. Oh, go ahead.
Can we get a list outside of these things and what's already been done
Sure.
of what has not been done?
Are you looking for exterior access to the buildings? And the
Any
reason,
access into the building that
Sure.
does not have a fob?
absolutely.
You can go by door number or location or, but it would be good to know what's not, like I
Sure.
know the back of Goff on one side has a fob, on the other side
Yeah.
does not.
And at the time, I know, once again, I think the decision was made because of some doors were being used for some purposes and not others. And golf was one of those where the whole building changed, right? The access to the building used to be from one end, and the front door was redone as the main access point. But absolutely, we can generate the list of that.
Mr. Charbonneau?
My question.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Ms. Fenolo, do you?
One more question
Sure.
about your quote. So there are a few things on national, and I'm sure you have checked, and there are more line items on ATG. So they're equal.
Yes, they are. with some of the vendors, and that was our follow-up questions that we had the same questions, including the three. I required that they give me a 3-year warranty. Initially, it was a warranty, so we followed up and made sure that it was 3 years, and everything is, you know, apples to apples. Well, unfortunately, what sometimes they do is they include the installation price, where one will break out like every little item thing. So, yes, and National has also been the company that's done the wiring for the other buildings. So I think that's one of the things that comes into play is their familiarity with the buildings and data runs and things like that to the buildings. But yes, they are.
And another question, we do have a lift, don't we?
No,
Do we have a lift?
we don't need National doesn't need a lift on this. One had put that down not knowing, but the option was either a lift or a taller ladder. And that was a $75 difference on one item. I think it was $75 for that, but no, we're good with that.
That was $750.
The 750, yeah. And one of the things I will point out of the 4 vendors, these items right now are really difficult to get. And I just want to let everybody know because of, I made it a requirement they had to be done, but some of these items are still back ordered 4 to 6 months. With as far as security goes, unfortunately.
Any other questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Manello. Ms. Carney. Mr. Charbonneau. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shalal.
Yes. First, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, committee approval of the intern superintendent posting. I was made aware when Superintendent McWilliams retired, that triggered something that we're supposed to post in interim superintendent posting. With that, Mr. Conley, do you mind telling the committee what you told me about posting for the intern superintendent position?
Certainly, Chair. So on the resignation of your former superintendent, your essentially the district was left with an acting superintendent. The acting position is a position while you have the superintendent. So from this point or from that point today, for retirement resignation, until the district hires a new superintendent, you're in an interim superintendent status. RIDE requires that we post for an interim position. And so that's why I requested that the chair bring this to the committee.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Ms. Doobie, seconded by Ms. Connie. Discussion. Mr. Charbonneau.
So Attorney Conley, I'm a little confused because the previous time we had a vacancy at the superintendent, we named an interim superintendent. I don't believe there was a posting when that occurred.
So I can't speak to what you did last time, and I apologize for that, but I can tell you that RIDE would prefer a posting because you want to make sure you have a person who's properly accredited for that position to be filling it. If you didn't do it that way, I'm not suggesting that the RIDE police would, come after us, but I don't know that they wouldn't either. And so because you're going from acting to interim position, which is the process that is involved. We obviously have your acting superintendent meeting those responsibilities and duties under the statute, but we really don't have a superintendent, so it's not an acting position.
Yeah, follow up?
Just. So we post for the sake of posting is what it sounds like. And then we leave it out there for a couple of weeks. And what happens if we get a half a dozen applicants? We go through the interview process, we could be well on our way to the search for a new permanent superintendent by the time we wrap up the formalities of acting or interim.
But it's not, there's not a required posting time, grades don't say you have to post it 2 weeks. But I would suggest that you do need to post, and the answer is yes, if you, depending upon who responds, it is this committee, authority and this, to appoint the interim, so it will have to be done by the committee and, the process that we decide on. I'm assuming it will somewhat be driven by how many applicants we get to the position. How do you want to vet those out?
Okay.
Kim, Ms. Grant?
So I just want to clarify, because I think I heard two different things. The first thing I heard was RIDE requires. Then the second thing I heard was RIDE prefers. So what is their policy and procedure and what is required of us? Because that makes a big difference. Especially with the time that we have, because we will need to, I would assume, form a subcommittee. We would, because the hiring of the superintendent is that one of the school committee. So we would have to follow through some processes. So I guess what I want to know is, what are we required to do?
If I use the word, I'd probably use the vernacular. For interim superintendent, you should post.
Should or we have to?
You must post.
We must post, because there's a big difference between should and must. And because we are on a time limit, like I said, this person could get the position and then the next day we could hire a superintendent. So I just want to make sure. So it is a must. We are required to.
It is a must, and again, I don't know what, I don't know what you did last time. I didn't look at it, and I'm not suggesting that that if RIDE didn't call it to attention last time, that they wouldn't this time either.
Actually, it was the past two times, past two superintendents.
But I did reach out to the chair, the interim superintendent, and the process required to post. The basis for the posting is that you need to have properly accredited for an interview. It's not just acting anymore. You don't have a superintendent. You have an acting only.
But yeah, the past two times, Patty DeCenzo was interim and Cheryl McWilliams was an interim, and they were both not postings. They were just, they were asked. So, okay.
Again, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem.
Giving the
I
best
just,
advice I can.
yeah, but I just want to make sure that we have it, we do, or we are being advised exactly what we're supposed to do. So.
Marsha?
I had the should and I had the same question. I'm sorry that.
All
Ms.
right,
Grant had, sorry.
you sure? Ms. Connie?
Yeah, so our, a posting for a permanent superintendent would be for July 1, correct? That the starting date. So between March and July 1, I think it would be, a good enough length of time to have a posting if we need to just go through the policy and the procedure. And then, I mean, it's not, like you said, it might just be, it's not going to be a day or a week. I mean, if we find a superintendent, the new superintendent wouldn't start till July 1. So just in that interim, if it's a safer thing to post, then
Ms. Manolo?
How long must we post for?
I'm not aware of any regulation that requires that you could post for any specific period of time.
1 week?
Mr. Charbonneau?
I guess I go back to the original. we were very much under the gun to name an acting superintendent. And at no time in that process did anybody say, listen, this is just acting. We may need to look for an interim. And so my frustration is I thought we had already resolved this issue. And now we're gonna go back through the process of it again. And I would have preferred that. I don't know why the rush to name an acting if we're just 3 weeks later, we're gonna be sitting here talking about naming an interim. That's all.
Ms. Doobie.
So, only because this is something we're already exploring on the superintendent search, but we should be looking at, our language that we have with collective bargaining as far as posting. Because I know that we do have language around that, regardless of what RIDE is saying about when we post positions. So I just think consulting the contract that we have would probably give us at least our internal, what we need to do. Yeah, but if there's nothing coming from outside, then we just can look to that, I guess.
Does anyone know what the internal rule is? Does anyone that's sitting in the front row of the audience can answer this committee's question? This does seem to I can understand Mr. Charbonneau's frustration with this. You know, at the last minute, I was told RIDE comes in and says, hey, you guys have to post for 5 days. Now it's, oh, you can post. Is by who? By who? What are you stating that on? I'm asking honestly. Oh, well, yes, I know, but I was told RIDE said you need to post for 5 days. And I even asked, oh, is that calendar days? Is that? So there is a little bit of message in here that's a little messy, and we need to find out how long it has to get posted. We have to find out when it has to get out there. We need to do the business that needs to be set forth. And, you know, I can't answer to the committee what you guys did in the past. I was born 100 years ago, and you guys are saying that you named interim superintendents like that. Mr. Charbonneau, you had your hand up.
Well, I'm curious. We have an agreement currently, correct?
We
With
didn't
the
have
acting
that.
superintendent?
Yes. Do you want to speak on this, superintendent?
I don't know if Attorney Conley does, or you want me to, but the current language, do you want to?
Yes.
So when your former superintendent resigned in order to retire, the agreement that you have is that you would have an acting superintendent until such time as either that contract ended, which is now essentially happened, or upon notice from the acting superintendent, due to 10 days. So you, by way of explanation, we needed an acting superintendent because you had a superintendent who was on leave. So you didn't have a superintendent who could exercise, because that superintendent was on leave status. We didn't have a superintendent that was exercising essentially the legal duties and responsibilities under the statute. So you needed to have an acting superintendent in place, so that's supposed to be exercised. That's why that.
May I interrupt 1 second? Were we precluded at that point from hiring an interim?
Yeah.
So the designation of interim and acting is relevant in material here.
Yes, they're two different things.
Okay.
That's the education I also got.
They're two different things. So the
This thing with
acting-
titles bothered me, Mr. Charbonneau, too.
And so the acting status is while you have a superintendent in place, for instance, on leave, as we did, that was exactly our circumstance. So because you didn't not have a superintendent, the superintendent was on leave. You needed a person that could exercise the statutory responsibilities and duties required of a superintendent. That's an acting superintendent, because it's still a superintendent. The superintendent resigned. And so now you have no superintendent, you have the person in the position of the acting superintendent, but the status changes to an interim because they're between superintendents now. So that's an interim status. So the status does change.
Okay, so, and my concern is when we sat to discuss an agreement, none of that, I wasn't aware of any of that discussion. And I think there were discussions that were favorable to an agreement with an assumption by this committee that would get us until we hired a permanent superintendent.
So at the time that we, and if I may.
No,
At the time that we entered into an acting superintendent, we did just that. It was an agreement for an acting superintendent, not an interim superintendent. It did not contemplate the retirement or resignation of the incumbent prior to the expiration of the contract. It was simply an agreement for an acting superintendent. It did not provide for what would happen if the incumbent didn't fulfill the term of the contract and resign. It didn't address that.
But safe to say that in that discussion, everybody was fairly comfortable that the previous superintendent was not coming back.
That was not part of, that was certainly not, part of the agreement that was entered into with the acting, and the acting agreement did not anticipate that the superintendent would not, the incumbent superintendent would not complete the term of the contract. If the incumbent superintendent completed the term of a contract, then the acting status would have remained through June 30th. But we don't have, the district doesn't have an incumbent superintendent.
Okay.
Kim Demasha?
So I have to share right now, how frustrated, how disappointed I am with this being on the agenda and no one knows what's going on. It's a discussion action item. We're not going to be able to make an action because no one knows the rules or no one looked into it. So how do you put an item on the agenda and not know if it's something that's important for us to do? Our next meeting isn't until the end of the month. If what Ms. Bonolo says is correct, then we have to form a subcommittee. Then we need to come up with our job description. Then we need to post it for 15 days. Now we're in the middle of April. Then we have to do interviews. And then we have to, put the person in place or whatever. But like, why doesn't anyone know what's going on? Like, why should, what I feel should happen is this should have come to the table. We should have the discussion. The questions that are being asked should be answered. And by the end of it, we should be able to make a vote on it. But now this is gonna, again, sit 2 more weeks. But if it's on the agenda, someone had to have known or knew what direction this was gonna go in. So whoever put it on needs to know what direction these are gonna go in. So we don't just sit here and look at each other and ask each other, well, who's gonna answer this? Who knows that? Who knows that? It's really disappointing and very frustrating. If this is something we need, then like I said, maybe if this was on prior, maybe someone should have reached out to the union prior to tonight and talked to them to find out, what the contract says. Or maybe someone should have pulled the contract to see what, but this is ridiculous. We should know what or where we need to go from there. we have so much going on in this district right now. And the last thing, besides looking for a superintendent, is worrying about an interim superintendent. You know, I'm just really disappointed that this kind of wasn't all thought out before it kind of got to the table, where if people did ask questions, we would have the answers here.
I was just gonna ask, because when we did
Become aware of the resignation, like why when we did become aware of the resignation, wasn't someone informed about the interim? Like this has been, I mean, we had that meeting, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. When was that? Like, why are we just hearing about that? Like, why isn't that and I'm still learning, so I'm not really sure, but I feel like this whole superintendent, it's been a little nightmare, right? We keep finding out all these things last minute and that we're not aware of, and I'm not sure who's supposed to figure this stuff out, but I feel like us finding out right now today, when we knew that she resigned a few weeks ago, so, and I agree with Kim, now we have to wait another however many weeks when we're trying to, you know, figure out about hiring a permanent superintendent.
I think that the purpose of putting it on for discussion is what we're doing. I also think that given what we can speak of on each agenda each time is a necessary series of events. And I also think because of the weather, it does feel like it's been a long time. I was actually feeling like that, but I don't have a concern with this being on the agenda for discussion following all of the other series of events that has happened. This is what the purpose is for us to discuss it. So I don't think that I don't want to make it sound like there's nothing we can do about this. I mean, this is the point for us to have a discussion and do something about it. So that's what I would like to continue bringing.
Mr. Charbonneau, and then
And with all due respect to Ms. Connie, I think the item is approval of a superintendent posting. I don't, there's not a posting in my packet that has verbiage or, I mean, I would be concerned if, are we going to look at somebody applying for an interim basis? What happens if one of those candidates applies for the permanent position? Or do people apply for the interim with an understanding that they wouldn't apply for the permanent? I mean, I think there's a lot of things that go into that posting so that we attract the best candidates, and we're being asked to approve it, and I haven't even seen one. So I get it that there's agenda items for discussion, but this isn't a discussion item. This is asking for approval of the posting, and there is no posting. That's my frustration. And yet, sometimes when we want to move on things, we move on them quickly, and then we end up having to go back and fix it and do it a second time or a third time. And that's where I'm at with it.
Ms. Manolo?
Is it possible for you to ask somebody to chair this committee to get it started this evening? Seeing it is an action item?
That is yeah, that is something to, I mean, the answer was, Mr. Charbonneau, you're saying no. We can.
I don't know that you're looking to, there's no listing that you're forming a subcommittee of anything. I don't know how you name a chairman for that or a chairwoman for that based off that agenda language.
Okay, understood. Understood, yes. Mr. Conley, you said you had something?
I just wanted to talk about the process and I guess the communication of the appointment. I did speak to the chair after the committee decided to accept the resignation effective February 28th. I did explain to the chair that there would be a need now to address the hiring of an interim superintendent instead of an acting. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, to suggest that get it on the next meeting. This is the next meeting after February 28th. so that's why it's coming to. And so that's. Apologize to anyone in the community that felt that they were sort of left out of that communication, but that's how it occurred. That's how it occurred. And here, that's pretty much.
It even happened, the timeline was even a little bit later because the first agenda was already set, then when it got canceled. So, but
Yeah, you had to get it out.
Ms. Grant?
And with that being said, that's fine, but I do agree with Mr. Shabano that it does say approval of interim superintendent posting, which indicates that there is a posting available for us to approve tonight, and that's not the case.
Can- yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to keep interrupting. There was another question about the collective bargaining agreement. Our collective bargaining agreement does require internal posting on it. So when the committee decides to go forward on it, so the CBA does require an internal posting.
Okay.
So I have to put that. That's the problem.
Attorney Connolly, is there a possibility that there's, I don't know, an existing interim superintendent posting that might not be, that's like agnostic or generic that we've used in the past that is able to be legally updated?
Sure, I'm sure there is one. I didn't, there wasn't one prepared for this evening. I wasn't one provided with committee this evening.
No, because that's what I wanted to do tonight. Ms. Grant?
Attorney Connolly, when you say an internal posting, so we would need to post from within first? Or, so we would, okay, so it would be simultaneously, okay.
Any other discussion from the body? All right, then I'll take this one on the chin. This is me who put this on here because I was informed that when we were trying to move along on getting an intern superintendent into our school district, because RIDE told us about this thing with titles. I thought acting superintendent was gonna be fine, but they said, no, you need, so okay, we'll just name, we have someone very capable at this position. No, you need to post the job. That's how this all came about. It was thrown at us, again, more curveballs gets thrown at us, so this is on me. I posted it and worded it the way I did, so we can have this open discussion. We are 7 independent leaders, we're supposed to talk about this. But I am getting an education, I possibly should have had a posting, but I was gonna try to steer the committee to think about giving this to the superintendent search committee to see if they already have a job posting for the superintendent, and can we flip that over as the posting? I don't know that answer, so that's why I was gonna ask that.
So I would push back on that because I think that what Mr. Charbonneau brought up is that some of the most important language we're going to put into this is going to be language around whether people who are seeking the superintendent position can also seek the interim position. That kind of language might go in there. But also the skill set we're asking them to do, we're not asking, a lot of things we put in there are around, long-term planning, and you're asking them to do a different skill set. So I would be hesitant to just roll a full superintendent job description, because I also think this idea that we're gonna have just so many people come out of the woodwork for a 2-month job and leave their current employment to do, I just don't see that happening. I think you're going to, like I said, I think that you need to have someone who's certified.
Yes.
And I think that you need to have language about what you're looking for that person to be tasked with doing. But I mean,
Can I ask that when you guys said that there was interim superintendents, is there a posting? Did you guys have a template that you just named whoever?
They didn't post when they made Patty DeCenzo the interim superintendent.
Just named it.
And
Boys
we
vote?
didn't, that was a different committee, and we didn't post when we named Cheryl McWilliams the interim superintendent.
Kim, which was before Patty. We didn't post there either, so we've never posted.
And we didn't post for an acting superintendent, quite honestly. We just named
And
that.
they're saying that we don't need to. That's the thing. Ms. Connie?
Would we be able to ask the union if they would be open to looking at the number of calendar days in the contract for this posting? Would that
Would it-
be able to be negotiable, like, so that we're able to move on this? Seeing as if this is going to take a couple more meetings and it's something we need to do, are we able to have any negotiating?
That's a great question. Super, do you have any?
I do believe that there's a waiver allowance in the union contract. And I am confident that the union would entertain that request from us.
But we, as a body, need to come up with the process to have a superintendent posting, interim superintendent posting. My idea was to have a brainstorming session right now, and I thought it was gonna go to the superintendent search committee. I don't think that's a viable option right now, because we want to make it a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're putting it over to asking the committee to ask the search committee to come up with a posting. No, asking them not to have the posting tonight. Create the posting. Okay. Ms. Doobie.
I would prefer that we have a meeting next week, yes,
Yes, the 30th.
that on the 30th, that we have something to look at in front of us that is crafted with legal and with the chair, and if there's another committee member that wants to get involved with that. It doesn't have to be an official subcommittee. It just has to be not a quorum of this body. That can work on putting together some kind of draft that we can then look at and approve on the 30th. And that can then be posted. And then based on that, I think that, as Ms. Grant said, the multiple steps that would need to go through to form subcommittees, we're going to end up in May before we have an interim. I think that this body just needs to be prepared to have a meeting, an executive session, to look over the applications at the meeting after that, or possibly a special meeting, because we have that long gap because of April vacation. So we probably have to have a meeting before April vacation. So you have April 30th. I don't have a calendar in front of me. You have a special meeting to open those applications, look at them, and then decide, did we get one application? Or are we going to conduct interviews? And although it isn't a long amount of time, it is 2 solid months at least. Because our superintendent search committee, I think, is hoping to deliver candidates for your consideration in May. But if there's delays, or if there are, contracting, issues where we go back and forth with a candidate and then have to go back to a second candidate, it is good to have somebody in place to move us forward. So like I said, that would be my advice for moving forward.
Kim, do you have?
And, sorry, and I think I made the motion to
Aaron,
approve this.
yes, yep, Aaron did,
Yeah,
and you.
so
seconded.
I also withdraw my motion to approve this posting as of now.
I'll make a motion that we will put this on the next agenda with a job posting to review.
I don't think you need a motion.
Do we need a
Yeah.
motion for that?
We'll just officially
Okay.
act, but I will follow the instruction of the body with what Ms. Doobie said. Mr. Conley, did you hear her, what exactly she said? I did. Okay, all right. All right, then I'll be reaching out to his members. You withdraw your motion? All right, thank you very much for that. All right, on to the next one, discussion items. Do you guys want a 5-minute break? Like 2-minute break? I know, you guys. All right, let's go. Superintendent, start us off with the Winters update. And then the Colliers team will go ahead and speak with us.
So at the last meeting, we had requested that we have a Winters update on each regular school committee meeting. This is that update for this time. We've had a couple of moments there's been some things that have going on, and I think Jared and his team are going to explain those things and open that up to this committee for discussion and comment.
Yes, thank you for having us. Jared Jackson, Collier's project leaders. I am here today with my team to give an update on the winters. I am here joined with George Salome of JCI Johnson Controls, Rick Silva with JCI Johnson Controls, Kathy Ellithorpe, SLAM Architects, Brian Wetzel, CES, the engineers, Bill Bryan, Gilbane, Mike Arden Peregrine, as well as Mike Petrozello, the commissioning agent. So we are going to give a quick overview and presentation of what happened, what steps we've taken over the past couple weeks, some of the events that have happened over the past couple weeks, and then our next steps moving forward. And with that, I will turn this over to Brian Wetzel.
Part of the team.
I'll just have to unplug it and reconnect everything. Sorry, there's only one outlet over here that I can. We can make sure to read every point out loud as well, if that helps.
Good evening. Again, Brian Wetzel with Consulting Engineering Services. We felt the best way to give you an update from the last meeting of where we stand, progress that we made, meetings that we've had, is to go through the same PowerPoint presentation that we presented before. This diagram, I'm going to touch on it again, just to kind of as a refresher to what we discussed before. And again, had it available in case we want to go back to it for discussion. To me, I like to see diagrams like this. It helps me to point to things. So we have it available if we need be. Again, this diagram, there's a VRF condensing unit up on the roof. That's the item on the top of the page there. That for our purposes is the air conditioning system. Sometimes I refer to that as a compressing unit, a compressor condensing unit, not to confuse some terms. Has refrigerant piping that goes down to a coil at the VRF indoor unit. That's the coil that's highlighted blue. And then the lineup of the airflow from left to right is the cooling coil, the air conditioning coil from the VRF unit, a fan, and then a hot water coil. And the synopsis that happened twice is that the air conditioning system provided such cold air, 17 to 20 degrees, that it froze the hot water coil in 2 different cases. So if we go to the next slide, again, these are the same points that we went through last time. I want to give you an update on those. We have also some enhancements to some of these items. We've had many multiple meetings. I want to let you know that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. In my office alone, I can't tell you the number of meetings we've had trying to go through these items, understands the best mitigation actions and recommendations. I know the contractors have had a lot of meetings, and we've had a lot of meetings interacting with each other. So this list, even though this was presented last time, has been gone through many multiple times amongst many meetings as far as an update and some enhancements that I'll mention on. So to lock out the compressors at the compressor condensing units, the VRF units on the roof was discussed last time. When we presented that last time, our understanding from Dakin that the way to do that was to go up on the roof. We talked about going to a little keypad and locking that out, or wiring this ABC terminal. Well, the Daikin representative was out here twice, I believe, with the factory on the phone, and they're realizing that the model number of the heat recovery unit that is on the roof is not one you're able to do that with on the roof. So we got together, we said, what else can we do to lock out these compressors, knowing that that's what we need to do? So we worked together with the building management system in JCI, and they are now locked out through the Johnson Controls BMS system. This is as of at least 2 weeks ago. We've been monitoring that system through alarms, which is the last item. We've had no instances of temperature sensors or alarms going off to indicate that it's gone on. Now, we all knew that we were doing safety measures above and beyond that. So again, other mitigating actions to go above and beyond to make sure there's protection is putting propylene glycol in the system, inspecting all the hot water coils, and again, the alarms. All these items, including other items, are 100% done as of last week. They've been done, and we've been watching the system to make sure there's been no alarms otherwise. Some quick enhancements, we talked about. Yeah,
As we go through the slides. Well, we're making reference to things being done that we were told were done 3 weeks ago.
Mr. Shop, I have that as a. No, I was gonna jump in, but last time in with the hour, I just think they should run through their presentation. I understand your frustration, but cause I wrote down a note too on something he stated. But if you guys don't mind, just go through your presentation and we're gonna have a chance.
Yep, that's fine. Fair enough. Yep. Some enhancements as we've been working along on these mitigation actions. We've realized we have propylene glycol in the system and we need to be monitoring that. So we've worked with Peregrine, the mechanical contractor, to make sure they have their chemical treatment company coming out every 3 months to monitor that. Something we've thought of. This is something we need to do to make sure the systems are safe. We've expanded on the set points of some of the temperature to provide a broader band, bigger safety and margin. As we've gone through this and we're getting less and less alarms on the systems that we're monitoring, we realized we could do this and have an added safety of an alarm. Also realizing that talking with Dakin and VRF, or Dakin and Johnson Controls, are discussing the systems in more detail. They have a direct backnet connection now, and we're exploring more options to be able to try to add more safeties and also be able to troubleshoot and monitor more points, kind of leading a little bit more into our recommendations. So next slide, we'll go through this and then we can open up the floor, of course. So our recommendations, this is a new slide. I'm kind of fine tuning what our memo is. We have a lot of detailed items. This is a high flying scenario of our recommendations. We're asking them to review the equipment. These are sensors and valves, things you can put your hardware, you can put your hands onto, and sequence of operations of these following systems: the Dakin VRF systems, the BMS system, Johnson Controls system, and the interfaces between those two systems. We have, again, I've had a lot of discussions on these, even though we just, as of a week ago, came up with a first detailed list of preliminary recommendations. As of 2 weeks ago, a lot of these items were already being addressed and have been addressed. By the time we wrote the memo, they were already done. They haven't been checked. But again, I just want to reinforce that things are ongoing and happening. And on our recommendation is that these items have comprehensive commissioning to check them line item by line item. We have other recommendations above and beyond this, some miscellaneous recommendations, and again, are continuing to add to our recommendations. Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau first.
So you mentioned locking out the compressors, but 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, the meeting at the admin building, we assured everybody that the compressors had already been locked out. Right, that there was no chance, even if it called for cold air, that it would send cold air. And then we found out a week later or so that that wasn't the case, right? That the units were still calling for cold air. So all of these reactionary recommendations, I think, are, who did we ask to review the equipment, the hardware, the sequence? Who's reviewing all of that?
I think. So this list particularly here is.
Yes.
So this is a team effort. There's Gilbane as the general contractor. There's a mechanical contractor, and then below them are subcontractors.
So the review of the equipment is being conducted by who? Gilbane?
So it's going to be a joint effort between all of the parties involved. So Daikin, which is the manufacturer that supplied the unit and brought it to the roof, will be there. JCI, the programmers who we have here as well, who manage the BMS system, will be there. Peregrine Mechanical, another aspect of the subcontractors, who are the mechanical contractors who installed these systems, as well as, obviously Brian CES, which is the engineer, will be reviewing them, and we have commissioning agents as well on hand reviewing them. So the entire team will be getting together and reviewing all of the findings and results and coming up with their synopsis and making sure that we can move forward.
What's the timeline for that review?
So I don't know that I have a definite timeline right now, and we can speak a little bit to it. But one thing I do want to say is that about a week or so ago, we received the memo on what we would like our preliminary investigations and review of the system to be. A good portion of these have already been reviewed. There are still a good portion that need to continue to get reviewed. We have a couple dates set up to continue reviewing these with getting Daikin, JCI, commissioning, and everybody to the table at the same time. Obviously, we are all working diligently on our own and also coming together.
So have we started reviewing the equipment in the sequence or have we not?
We have, yes.
And who's doing it?
It's been a combination of everybody on the team that I just mentioned has been reviewing.
And it's ongoing. So when
It
do you?
is ongoing.
When do you expect that you'll have something definitive to share with this committee? Because what's happening is you folks are standing up there at these meetings and telling us that this is going on and we're doing this and commission. And then the meeting goes away and then a couple of days later, we get an email. Oh, FYI, just found out this and so we need to start putting some concrete timelines together. When are we going to get the reports? Who's in charge of it? The teams you mentioned all have skin in the game here. So everybody's looking at the same reports. Who's looking at it on our behalf? Is it Collier's?
I am, and I'm also putting them together on a link so that everybody from the school committee can review any and every documentation that comes in. But I am as well, yes.
Right, but
I
you
am.
understand my frustration that you're communicating something publicly at a meeting. And then 2 or 3 days later, it's being disseminated amongst the committee privately that what was communicated publicly wasn't actually correct.
I do understand those frustrations, and I truly believe when we presented to the committee last time, we were under the impression that the system was locked out. And then some of the events that had happened and alarms that had gone off led us to investigate further, to which we found that the locking out system.
And I guess that's exactly my point, Jared. We've been at this issue now for well over a month plus. February 4th, I think, was the first incident. And we're communicating things, we're making assumptions, but how did we not look at this stuff from the get-go? Why are we talking about commissioning it now? Because we have the issue and it's been repaired and it's got to go through a recommissioning? Or we were told by the same team that's standing up here that these units don't have alarm capability. That was after the first issue, that there was no alarm notification to us because the units don't have that capacity, that capability. But once the second one blew, oh, lo and behold, we can put alarms on the thing and we can get notifications and we can lock out the VRF unit, and no, we can't lock it out. And the whole thing is turning into just a disaster. And I feel like this committee has been patient. We've invested a lot of time and a lot of resources on this. I think we've been patient with our team, but my patience is out and has been exhausted. And another issue at Winters for the next 10 years is going to be too many. So I want some assurances and some timelines when we're going to see some things. We don't even know what caused the problem, right? Because we threw out the other 3 weeks ago that it may have been an open window. So you guys got to get your arms around this, and we got to start getting answers that are concrete, locked and loaded, and everybody signs off on it. Because these having public conversations and then getting private emails is done. The next private email I get is going out to every media resource that I have. And I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have an independent commissioning agent working with us?
We have yes, the independent commissioning agent is through Collier's contract, through Collier's commissioning.
But is that an independent? Because it's tied with you and you have skin in the game too.
I don't know that I would call it independent in that, but I can say that Collier's commissioning branch is separate from the Collier's project leaders. They do not manage the projects the way the Collier's project leaders do as an owner's rep. They are specifically for commissioning, but I wouldn't call them independent. They are tied with our contract.
Superintendent?
So I want to say that I share many of the same frustrations that the committee is sharing, and I hate sending those emails just as much as you hate receiving them.
It's not a reflection on you. You're communicating the information.
So, but I do want to let you know that I did reach out to both RIDE and our trust to follow up with that exact same question about who's looking at it on our end. And both of them, each independent of one another, indicated that Collier's project leaders is the one that is supposed to be arranging for and vetting all the work and making sure that they're fighting, if you will, on our behalf. I have communicated with Jared, my expectations for certain things, our expectations for certain things. And he has been communicating that with Bill and Brian and Kathy and all of those individuals. But the thing is, we do need the answers, and I agree. We need the answers, and to hear one more, oh, that didn't work, or, oh, that didn't work exactly the way we had wanted it. It's exceptionally frustrating. And I think that what I need to continue to say is I need to trust the experts that they're giving us the best information that they know at the time. And that the layered mitigation strategies, they were layered for redundancy's sake, and they're working, right? Even though one didn't and one did, the glycol in the system is absolutely been foolproof to allow for those heating coils to not fail at this time. The other instances, the blocking out or locking out of the Daikin unit, they did work to remedy that, but I agree that we need an answer here. Why isn't that working? Who's going to make it work? So a timeline would be amazing.
Ms. Grant, thank you.
You know, I have to be honest, it's not just the air conditioning heating system now. We're getting emails every day about different things that are popping up in these schools. We just had a classroom close because of spores. So what, like, seriously, it's not, and we could get another email tomorrow. And then what if we have a heat wave? This is New England. We can't even turn the air condition on. I know supposedly there's natural air, but it's the natural air that's hot that people will end up opening windows. So we have a whole system we can't use. We have some classrooms we can't use. We have others that are starting to reclose because they weren't, I want to say, cleaned properly. Like what's going on with that too?
So I'll let Bill Bryan talk a little bit about the hygienist investigation that we received. But it was brought to our attention that a couple of rooms had a musty odor. So we went in to do additional air sampling. And in that, we did not close a classroom. The air sampling tests that came back stated that the classroom in question that had some elevated levels is still completely safe and can be operational and occupied. But I'm happy to let Bill speak a little bit to that if you'd like.
Lisa, the email you sent out to us, didn't it state that we closed up the classroom?
It was a recommendation. So they could do the functionality that they wanted to do, but it wasn't required at that moment because the room was occupiable and safe.
So did we close it so they could do that?
We have
And-
not closed that room as yet.
as of yet.
No, we needed a plan of attack for the work that needed to be done.
So we haven't closed the room as of yet. Which makes me say or think to myself, if my child was in that classroom and I was sitting here listening to that, I would be like, yeah, but my kid was sitting there today. Yeah, like, come on, guys. This is embarrassing. This is, you don't know who to believe. Like Mr. Charbonneau said, one day we're hearing one thing, the other day we're hearing another thing. You know, I remember the first meeting Bill Bryant was at. Oh, this is a fluke. This is a fluke. Then we have a press conference. Everyone did a great job, patting everyone on the back. And look at where we are now. We're back with even more problems. Come on, guys. We have kids in there, kids in these schools that need to be educated. And we need to know, we need to really know. You know, you sit here and you tell us they're safe. Do we really know if they are safe? Because you tell us one thing, but then 2 days later, we heard that there was an alarm that went off right after we had a press conference saying the building was safe and all the kids could come back to school. Like, how do we support you guys in what you say when a parent comes to us? Because I know me, I don't feel good about this situation. And I think it's extremely embarrassing. And after, you know, like I said, what the acting superintendent just said, I would not send, if my child is in that classroom, I wouldn't send my kid to school tomorrow. Because like she said, we haven't closed that room yet. What does that even mean? You know, this is really, it's really embarrassing. And it scares me for the school that we just demolished, you know, what the future could bring, you know, but this is, you know, but I guess we're here where we are right now, and we can just hope that you guys, you know, really, you know, work to make this better, not worse, because it's getting worse every day.
So let me address, I apologize, I'm not feeling well. Let me address the comment regarding the classroom. The industrial hygienist, who's nationally certified, who established all the protocols for the cleaning and remediation work, inspected rooms, tested rooms, and determined that they were available for reuse before the school opened. Subsequently, we were informed that there were a few rooms, 3 rooms, where there were comments from teachers, I believe, about musty odors. So we contacted the industrial hygienist. He had a representative come back and do additional testing. Unfortunately, when one goes through a situation like we've been through, having those types of issues arise post reoccupancy are not uncommon. So you go back and you test. The testing determined that 2 rooms were fine. It indicated that the 3rd room had an elevated level of spores relative to the outside air sample that was taken as a control measure. There are no state or federal guidelines for spores for indoor air quality. So this was a recommendation of the industrial hygienist, knowing it's a public school, that we do additional cleaning in that room. In order to do the additional cleaning, we can't do it during the day when teaching and learning is occurring. So if it was to be done as expeditiously as we were prepared to do it, the space would have to be unoccupied. But it does not require that. The industrial hygienist says that the space is safe to use as it is, and we have offered that the room can continue to be used this week. We will clean it Friday night. We will do air scrubbing through the weekend, and the room can be available next week without any interruption. No one has to move a thing out of the room. So that's where that particular matter is.
My child has asthma and my child sits in that classroom tomorrow, they're going to be comfortable and fine and everything's going to be great. Because the hygienist said we didn't need to do this quickly.
I can't answer your question professionally. I'm telling you what the report says from the hygienist that has been provided to you.
Because we need to think about these children that are in those classrooms. We need to make sure that we don't know what out front, what their medical needs are or what's going on. And nowadays, a lot of children do have asthma. And that could really, I remember on the first Monday, Jim asked me to go over to the school. We were sitting in the conference room. Bill, you were there. The guy from the trust was there. And I stated, wow, this is a brand new school. And what's going to happen is everyone's going to say after the fact, everyone's going to say, oh, there's mold, there was water, there's mold. And you and the guy from the trust said, we'll have proof that there isn't any problems with smells or things like that. And now we do have the smells. We do have the situations. And we have children in those schools who do suffer, not just the kids, but the staff that suffer from certain things that keep them from going outside or being in certain places from the spring. This all has to be taken into accountability for this. We need to think about all of it. We really do before we put any of these kids or keep any of these children in their classrooms.
Ms. Manolo.
Question for you. I did read the report and I did read about scrubbing the air and it being done on a Friday and through the weekend. My question to you is because we do have rooms that you left the gaps under the windowsills to ensure that there was additional drying time on some of the wood. Will Gilbane have a hygienist come in and check all of our rooms on a monthly basis until all our rooms are clean?
I'm going to give a simple answer and say, yes, I'm going to ask that I confer with the hygienist regarding your request, and we'll look at what the hygienist says is an appropriate protocol. And I'll come back and share that with the superintendent.
But for security, I mean,
We are not, look,
I did ask at the first rupture that all of the coils be inspected and everybody told me no. Until we had the second one, and a week after that, everybody decided that you would inspect all of the coils. Now I'm asking you, because we know that walls were put up, even though they were vented, because some of the woodwork was moist and needed to finish drying. I am asking that every room in that school, and not because they were affected by water, every room in that school be tested for air quality every month until a significant period of time has passed, that we can ensure people that there is no mold, because mold grows slowly, doesn't have to grow fast. And it may take 6 months for it to show up to the hygienist, and this is what I'm asking. And it's not really an ask, it's what is needed by this school district to ensure the safety of our students and our teachers. So would you speak with your hygienist and tell her, this is my ask, not ask, this is what we want?
I understand, Joanne.
Thank you.
I believe the report that the hygienist sent over indicated that in his or her professional opinion, there wasn't a need to further test the air going on. And I think we need to be careful about saying we're going to test air quality for X amount of months going forward, only that, I mean, did I misread the report? Or did the hygienist report that you sent over, Bill, indicate that they're saying there is no need to further test the school because they've already done it twice and they haven't found but for one room elevated spore levels that is going to be addressed. So I don't know what getting.
They've only tested 3 rooms.
Well, that's not what the report says.
On two occasions, they tested many more than 2 rooms. So that was the 3rd occasion when they tested the 3 rooms.
I think this is
And-
where some of the confusion.
I understand.
I'm under the impression that the report we were given today indicates that, but for that one room, the school has been found to be at or below levels considered acceptable for schools. It's been tested twice. And in their opinion, there's no benefit to testing it again. And now we're talking about testing it once a month. And you're committing to it, Bill. And my frustration is in 3 months from now, if I hear that there hasn't been an air quality sampling at that school.
Mr. Charbonneau, as you've heard me say before, I'm not, I'm not an engineer. I don't have P after my name. But I'll share my personal opinion, which is what I've shared on other occasions in conversations.
Bill, I don't want to,
No, I want to say this, sir. No,
We're asking for your professional opinion, not your personal opinion, Bill. I need your professional opinion.
well, it's my professional opinion, sir, but not as a hygienist. Okay? The hygienist has said, as you had stated, that he does not believe other testing is warranted. However, I want to be clear. We have always supported the school district and the Winters community. We are not obstructionists to anything. We have tried to be extremely transparent. That's why you see all those emails. I think it would be appropriate in the best interest of everyone for me to come back to you with a suggested further testing. I'm going to focus on the areas that we know were damaged because water didn't get in the entire building. And there's no basis for there to be any conditions found anywhere outside of the affected area related to, mold and so forth. And there's no indication, I want to be very clear, there's no indication of any mold growth, active mold growth in the areas that were affected. So I would like the opportunity to get with the hygienist and come back with a suggested protocol to do some further testing. And I will tell you, it will include every room that was impacted by water. It will do that, every individual space.
Ms. Connie?
You that I think that if anything, whether or not, given the unpredictable nature of things that have happened, I think if anything, it would make families feel comfortable and staff feel comfortable occupying the building. So that, whether or not we can determine at this point is warranted or whatever, if we knew that we had a schedule of regular checkups, I think it would make our community feel more secure and, you know, I would like to move forward on some timeline of intermittent checks along the way, even if it's just for reassurance.
Yeah, I just want to add one other comment. Ms. Grant mentioned in some of our early conversations, I was asked a question specifically with respect to mold, I think, or some other condition. If some latent condition was discovered some months down the road, would we still address it on behalf of the school? And my answer was yes. So there isn't a timeline here that is expiring that you have to call balls and strikes by.
I don't want, you know, I don't want anyone to leave here tonight. I mean, obviously, we don't have 100% guarantee, but I also don't want anyone to leave here tonight feeling afraid to send their kids to school if we have, you know, the proper protocols in place. So I don't want anyone being, you know, fearful leaving here, as long as we can make sure that we're mitigating along the way and having checks.
Ms. Grant.
I think the sad thing about this whole situation is this is a brand new school. And if it's not even like workable. It's not fixed. It's not what we paid for. It's not what the taxpayers paid for. And we shouldn't, and I think that's very noble of you guys, if down the line there's mold, that you'll come and, you know, clean it up, but we shouldn't have to worry about that. And we do have to worry about that. And it, like I said, you know, even now, we have to worry about in a month and a half, if we have a warm day in early May, we don't even know if we're going to have air conditioning for these kids on the third floor. You know, and so it's not just the heating, the whole heating thing. It's bigger than that. And that's what we can't forget. There's just, and then there's so much that still needs to be done over the summer. You know, I know Ms. Doobie shared that, you know, that was probably going to be one of the schools that we would have utilized all summer. But we're going to lose that. You know, it's a lot bigger than what people think because of what the expectations of this 21st century school was going to bring to this district and was going to bring to this district in September. And now we're on the back nine, you know, heading to the end of the school year. I think one of the kids talked about their prom coming up tonight. Like we're talking about almost the end of the school year. And we've been working on this for so long. And it's just too bad, you know?
With respect to this summer, the conversations that I have participated in have not indicated that the school will not be available for use this summer. We can work around it it's a limited amount of work that will be done this summer. And it can be done in the course of probably a week or 10 days.
In the air sampling, you indicated there is no standard for elevated levels, correct? There is no governmental standard for elevated levels.
That's what I've been told by the hygienist, sir. Yes, sir.
And we've tested the air a couple of times. We know we have elevated levels in one room. We haven't actioned on it. We haven't done anything with it. The kids are still going, the kids will be in that classroom tomorrow. There is no government standard for measurement. So what are we gaining out of measuring air quality once a month for the next 10 years? I don't understand if we're getting results in one room of an elevated level, but we're not taking any action to remove the kids, to immediately get in there and scrub the air or whatever we do. then to me, it seems like maybe it's not a big issue. And why are we gonna compound that by saying we'll test the air every month? There's nothing to test it against. There is no threshold for what's healthy air and what's not healthy air is what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's my understanding, sir. That's correct.
So I don't know what we gain from testing the air, I guess, is it, but we say it as some type of, boy, we're gonna make people feel great. Well, guess what? We tested the air. We have elevated spores in one room and the room's still open for business. We gotta get off this topic.
I have to piggyback, and I apologize, Jay, I'm gonna piggyback, gonna drag it out a little bit more. Mr. Charbonneau started, and one of the things said, I'm happy he showed frustration because we are all frustrated, but the messaging you are providing to us has me infuriated. 2 weeks ago, two meetings ago, someone sat there and talked about a window being open. That was debunked. Why was that brought up? And then tonight, you talked about how Daikin, the VRF system, how it was talked about. No, you told these leaders of this city, we are going to close it out. It was said. You guys couldn't do it. So your messaging to us who represent the families that send their children to that school needs to get a lot cleaner. We are taking your word on word that you said. You stated we are going to close out the coolant system from Daikin talking to JCI. I give a lot of credit to JCI. They're here all the time. Is Daikin here? Is anyone from Daikin here?
No, sir, they're not. They were invited. I'm sorry.
They've been invited to every meeting that I at least had the opportunity to go to, that Kim was going to, that, have they shown up to anything in the city of Pawtucket?
They have been at the school on various occasions and they've participated in various
And no one
meetings and
knew,
phone calls and so
no
forth.
one knew to ask them when you got up on the ladder to find out if you can close that out. Hey.
Oh, no, they were here, sir. That's what. they
No, no,
were-
but you guys allowed us to go out to the public and say, we are gonna close. If you ask for coolant, you can't get it. It
Sir.
was told to us that we can say that.
You're correct. Because when they were here, they did the procedures that they were told to do. And they checked and it was locked out. It was, I forget, a period of time after that, that through the active monitoring that is being done by team members, that they identified that it was not locked out. And then they reacted to that. So the information that was shared was the information that was known and provided. Did it change? Yes, sir, it did.
All right, I want, Jay's right, we have to move on from this, but I also had to throw that out there because all of us are so frustrated, all 7 leaders here. Marsha actually had something that she wanted to say about it too, because we represent this community and the messaging, we need to be able to trust what you are saying to us because you are the professionals. And we're just looking to be given answers. I know there's something answer this question, though. I thought you went in there to get the hygienist to retest because teachers complained about the musty odor. You guys didn't go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna send in a second test. Did I read that email correct?
No, you're correct. But there's been 3 rounds of tests.
Mhm.
Okay, so.
And we
so-
found nothing.
so- Right, and
But-
and then after the building was occupied, I don't know, a week later, so it's some period of time later. That's when we were informed that there were some comments, complaints about a couple of rooms having the musty smell, and that's what was
Then you went
responded
back
to.
in and we find elevated compared to the ones that was done previously when you guys did it, to make sure that. So there is a little bit of validity to what Ms. Bonolo is asking for. I don't know, I agree with Jay. If there's nothing to compare it to though, but there is a little bit to find out, is it going to different classrooms? But we asked you to have to come back because of a smell. So I find a lot of this to be very frustrating. And I know you guys are frustrated too. but you are the professionals. You need to get this done. Any other, go ahead, Ms. Benoit.
To do the data drop from the BMS system,
The BMS system.
the information that tells you the temperatures in all the classrooms. You only had it for a period of 5 days and it disappears. We had asked that if there was a way to get it downloaded so that you would have historical information.
So there's two entities where we're trying to record data. One of them is Johnson Controls BMS system. They're able to trend and record data such as space temperatures in a room. And we have we have all that data. The point you were making is the Daikin system has 5 days of data. We were able to retrieve that after the second event. We are working with them. That's one of our recommendations, is to set up something to do more trending of their information.
Okay, so that is in process and you won't let that drop.
Correct. It's on my list.
Okay, thank you.
I got it.
Well,
Help but ask.
I,
So we didn't retrieve that after the first event. We didn't retrieve any of that data after the first event.
that's not my, I'm not aware of any data that was retrieved. Correct.
Wouldn't that be a normal course of diagnostic? When, I mean, you have a coil burst in a brand new school, you're looking at the system, and wouldn't somebody say, hey, let's pull the data and see what we were looking at? We did it for the second time. So I guess in your professional opinion, any reason why we didn't do it in the first time?
There's a lot that happened in that first event, and there was a lot of information that
Would have
things-
been useful to have captured from
We
that
were-
system, had
yeah.
we
It's,
dumped the data.
our focus was on the BMS system because that's where we know there was trending data.
But we could have dumped the data from after the first incident.
Personally, myself, I didn't even know that data was available till the second incident. That's speaking for myself. We go after the building
Wait
management.
a minute. You didn't know the data was available until the second incident? Well,
This
who
is
did
the
we
Daikin,
have?
yep, this is the Daikin data.
Right. And after the first incident, didn't we have everybody who had anything to do with this mechanical piece involved? Jared, didn't we have Colliers there, Gilbane there, Delkin there, JCSI there? So with all of our experts there, and listen, quite honestly, we only have a contract with Gilbane and Colliers. So
After the first incident, I pulled everybody in on the team and we were all there within 24 hours. I can't speak to Daikin. I don't remember or recall if they were there on day one. I know.
but they're the manufacturers of the unit we had the problem with.
Yes.
And nobody can speak to whether they were there on day one, or if one of their reps didn't say to somebody on our team, you know what? We can dump the data and see what happened to the system. We'll be able to capture the temperatures, but here's how we do it. We knew to do it after the second one. We didn't know how to do it after the first one. And I believe it's because we never thought it was a serious issue after the first one. We all thought it was this anomaly, and we were just gonna clean up the mess and reopen the building. When this committee thought otherwise and asked questions and to do some kind of research and diagnostic to see what was going on. And quite honestly, I think we were assured, I'll go back and review the minutes, but I think we were assured that our team was gonna do that stuff. And now it's coming out drip by drip by drip. We got moving after the second coil burst for sure. But between the bursting of the first and the bursting of the second, we were worried about cleaning up the mess and getting out of it. I'll have nothing more to say on Winters tonight.
Last thing,
Just Connie.
can we find, has this ever happened before? Or is winter's the first time this has ever happened? Like, has there ever, like, there must be like some, has it ever happened anywhere else? Or this is it?
That's a great question. We ourselves have been looking into this. The mechanical contractor has been looking at this, talking with different Dakin reps. We're not aware of any Dakin equipment that this has happened to.
All right. Any other
That's really
discussion?
it.
All right. Right. All right. Ms. Ram, did you have anything to say?
I'm afraid. But no, basically, I think in terms of the testing, anybody who's listening, it's more in our insurance company, the trust indicated moisture testing is as important as any air quality testing. So and I talked to Jared about moisture testing, so we need to make sure that we have moisture testing.
That's gonna be on the checklist. Moisture testing, all right. All right. I think we're gonna move on to letter B. Let's go. All right. Next discussion item is NRIC possible closing and plan for summer program 2023 and fall 2023-2024 school year. Superintendent.
So actually, I
apologize, isn't it? Committee member Grant item?
Well, I requested that we update.
Thank you. Okay, you want me to give you the chance? Okay.
do you want anything to say?
I just had requested that, so please, I may have questions, but.
For sure. I think the best person to bring up to the podium is Dr. Andrade, the Director of Student Support Services, as he and his team have been working on the transition for NRIC.
Good evening. First off, I want to thank you all for your continuing to provide unwavering support for our special populations groups. The Pawtucket School Department is committed to ensuring our students' and families' education is not disrupted with the anticipated closing of NRIC. We understand this is an emotional time for our students and our families. No student or family member wants to hear their school is closing. This sudden news can cause anxieties, apprehension, and uncertainty for what their futures may hold. The Pawtucket School Department is empathetic to our families' emotions and immediately reached out to all Pawtucket families enrolled at NRIC to discuss the anticipated school closure. Through these sensitive conversations, we continue to work closely with students, families, and NRIC to explore alternative programs to ensure an appropriate continuum of services based on each student's individual education plan. On Tuesday, February 7th, the special education administrators met with Acting Superintendent Ramsey and Assistant Superintendent Rabbit to discuss the potential dissolution of NRIC and strategized a plan to communicate with families and prepare for next steps. On the very next day, the new Assistant Special Education Director, Karen Macbeth, and myself contacted each Pawtucket family enrolled at NRIC. On Friday, February 10th, the Northern Region of Special Education Directors held a meeting and discussed the anticipated NRIC dissolution, and we discussed ways to ensure students were going to continue to receive their services. Shortly thereafter, Assistant Special Education Director Macbeth visited our Pawtucket students at the site at NRIC. In addition, I am working very closely with Joseph Renzi, the Special Education Director at NRIC, who has been a consummate professional in these challenging times. As of February 1st, 16 Pawtucket students were enrolled at NRIC. To date, every family has been contacted by a special education administrator to discuss the anticipated dissolution. Of those 16 students, 6 students are 12th graders. They are projected to graduate in June. We are working closely with NRIC to ensure our graduating students have detailed transition programs moving forward. Of the 12 students left, 1 student is relocating to Massachusetts. 2 students will be transitioning to the Rhode Island Alternative Academy in the near future. That leaves 9. 9 students. In collaboration with families, we have made referrals to 11 private schools. Many of those students have already been accepted to these private schools, are in the process of touring and/or initiating intake procedures. Those students who are eligible for ESY services, we are prepared to offer our ESY programming if needed. In closing, I want to reiterate that the Pawtucket School Department is working very closely with NRIC and our families. I want to express my sincere gratitude to the NRIC faculty and staff, as well as the special education director, for working closely with our students and their families to ensure our students will continue to receive an appropriate continuum of services based on the student's individual education plan, and most importantly, without any disruption.
Ms. Doobie.
So I have a question. I was just doing the math quickly. So you said after it all, there are 9 students who are not currently enrolled in another program.
Correct.
And then you made a reference to 11 referrals were made. I wasn't sure if that was 2 students had 2 referrals or 3 students had 5 referrals. Like, so are you saying that of those 9 students, every single one of them has had a referral to a private school? Or is there, like, maybe there's 2 that we're planning that we're saying, oh, they're going to come back to the Pawtucket school. So can you just clarify? I know we can't get into specifics on
Yep.
students, and I'm not asking to get into specifics. I'm just asking for the numbers. Of that 9, are you saying that all 9 in collaboration with the family will be referred to private programs?
That is correct. So what we do is when we look at situations in the current environment in out-of-district programs, there is waiting list. And so what we do to ensure that the student has a placement for September 1st is to send out 3 referrals per student to different private schools to ensure that in the event that there might be a waiting list, there might be not have opportunity for enrollment. We always want to do our due diligence to ensure that we do have, we're working on an appropriate placement.
So I just, because you said that 3 referrals per student, so I just want
Yep.
to clarify again.
Yep.
So. if
Those are
there-
11 private schools is what when I use the
Oh,
word
oh,
11,
I'm sorry.
11 private
So
schools.
multiple referrals have been sent out. to
Correct.
11 different private schools.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
So the first one is, those 9 students, have you spoken and worked with the parents in regards to those 11 schools? Are those schools that these parents feel comfortable that, because I know, when you do an IEP, it's a team and the parent is a big part of the team. Even the student in a lot of cases is part of the team. So have the parents been spoken to about these particular referrals? And has it been suggested or recommended that the parents take tours of these schools?
So that's part of the process. We cannot submit a release without the parents' consent. So that's the first piece. These are ongoing conversations they just can't all happen all at one time. There's many other students at NRIC. So we're positioning ourselves to ensure that we have those opportunities to meet with those families individually using the IEP, following IDEA, to have those conversations about, and what our responsibility is as a district is to identify those programs that we feel are appropriate to meet the needs of those students. Upon those conversations, that would then result in asking the parent to sign a release. From that point, once we have that release, then those referrals are then sent out. So we have identified 11 private schools who we believe will meet the needs of the majority of our students. And so we're looking at those schools.
Okay.
It's a process.
Oh, definitely. I agree with that. If for some reason those 9 students or in those 11 schools or one of those students or 2 of those students, are we prepared here in Pawtucket to provide for these students? So I know for a fact that right now we can't even provide all the services that our students who are going here now need. So how or what would the plan be? Because whether the Northern Collaborative does at the last second pull together and stay open, which I think would be fabulous, we need to make sure that these students, whether they if they are recommended for the summer program, that we're ready day one for them. So are we going to be able to provide for those students?
It's a very challenging question to answer. Without a doubt, I would love to see NRIC continue to stay open. In my position, I'm looking at what programs best meet our students' needs. For other decisions above me, which determines that we are not going to be part of that collaborative. So with that being said, it is our responsibility as an LEA to ensure the students have continued programming to meet their needs. So to answer your question specifically, you are absolutely right. There's a reason why many of our students are in out-of-district programs, because we do not have the internal capacity to meet those students' needs in our programming right now. In the event, I am confident that working with our private schools across the state, that we will be able to secure placements before the end of the school year. With that being said, there are some situations that they may find appropriate for the student to finish the rest of the year at NRIC. You're absolutely right. If NRIC were to remain open, we would absolutely consider bringing our students back. But at this time, I have to cover our liability purposes and ensure that we have a continuing program to provide those services to our students.
Okay, I have two more questions. The students who are graduating this year,
Yes,
so they're allowed to stay within the district in the transition program until the last day of their 21st birthday.
very good.
The last day, right before the day, right
Yes.
before their 22nd birthday. Is the plan to bring the transition students back to the district? Or have you been reaching out to the parents to place those students also?
This is tough, challenging questions.
But they're important.
They're absolutely important, and I appreciate being transparent about in my response. So when we think about students who qualify for those services that you mentioned, it's not a blanket statement that anyone who's 19 and has an IEP is entitled to those services. It's an IEP team decision. So the team would make that ultimate decision on whether or not that student is eligible for that transition program. I do believe I have a lot of confidence in our transition program. However, again, it's a case-by-case scenario. In the event that we feel that a student we will not be able to meet their needs in our transition program, then we would certainly look elsewhere. There are other programs in Rhode Island that provide transition services. Right off the top of my head, I can think of West Bay Collaborative has a wonderful program over at CCRI. So those are the conversations that are initiated in the IEP meeting, which are all scheduled out. Hopefully by the end of, my understanding is by April vacation, we have scheduled meetings for each one of our students to ensure that these conversations are taking place. If not, if they haven't already happened.
And if there are any parents out there, I actually have two more questions now. Again.
Go ahead.
If there are
Have a
any parents
babysitter.
out there
Yeah.
that feel that they haven't been part of the conversation, or they feel that they haven't had a call, should they just reach out to your office?
Call me directly.
Call you directly.
Absolutely. And right now, our new assistant special education director who's overseeing out of districts placements, I am working hand in hand with her to ensure our students are going to continue to receive their services. But in the event they feel like they're not being heard, please reach out to me.
And then the last thing I have to say is I wasn't here for the December meeting. I was actually away. But is there anything, and I think the acting superintendent or the assistant superintendent, Lee Rabbit, could maybe chime in here besides yourself. Is there anything our district or our committee can do to maybe help work with other districts to bring this program back? Because as you can see, there are students who need it. There are employees that do the work the way it needs to be done. And it would really be a big loss, it sounds like. And I'm just wondering if there is anything that can be, or if we can advocate as a district, maybe along with other districts, to support bringing the school back.
And what it's a,
Lee and I have both been to the NRIC meetings. We've also had extensive conversations with legal counsel. And at this point, it's been on the recommendation of legal counsel that we stay the course. As much as we would love to see NRIC stay open, it's not in our best interest to accept that liability.
And I know that. And I don't know, but how is it not in our best interest? If someone could share. Because it's not about us, it's about the kids. And that's who we should be thinking about. And so I guess I'm wondering, how is it not in our best interest? If it's going to support our students, it's gonna help our students go in the right direction. And we can't provide these services. You know, we just said it, most of them, we can't even provide these services. So why wouldn't it be in our best interest?
Can we ask Attorney Conley to speak to that?
If we can, yes.
So I think there's a difference between the policy that keeping NRIC open and having our students there is in the best interest of those students, and nobody can dispute that.
correct.
And as a district, we have certainly supported that NRIC remaining open, NRIC continue to service our students is the best thing that can happen to the students. That's a different question than what's in the best interest of the district from a legal point of view. If essentially we get to a point in June where we're the remaining entity that's participating and it dissolves, and we haven't essentially engaged in the diligence that's been outlined to you tonight to service those students. If there is some way, there's some strategy that, you know, with assistance of ROD, where NRIC can remain open and our students can be serviced there, everybody wins. That's a win-win. But we can't be in a position where we're standing alone, it dissolves, and we haven't done that. Now we're at a meeting, yeah.
Right, you and I were both at a meeting, but I think, and I apologize for cutting you off. And I don't think what I just stated was I want us to stand alone. Why can't we be a leader and advocate with the other districts and be a leader in this? And you know, try to work together with everyone to make this happen. I'm not saying Pawtucket do it alone, because I know we can't do it alone. But I think, you know, I'm just asking that if, you know, if this is good for our children, and, you know, I think like we all do, you know, these are their children, which they trust in and we as leaders, as teachers, as support staff, we need to advocate for these kids. So why can't Pawtucket be a leader on this and reach out? You know, I know the superintendents have an association, they meet every now and then. It's the ask is to advocate, not to be the only one there, not to buy the building, but to work together as a team, as a state of, you know, besides being the commissioner, the highest leaders fighting for the students in your district. And I just think that we should at least give it a shot. You know, there's nothing to hurt it, but I just think Pawtucket could take the lead on that and really try to move this forward. You know, I know there are other, you know, legal matters, you know, and I know some of the people working with the legislation, but I think if districts show and advocate, it will show and share the need for schools like this, for these students. And I think that's the least we could do for them, you know? We do it for other things, and I just can't see why we wouldn't try to take the lead on this and try to work with the other districts to try to, and I understand Pawtucket has the most students that go there, but maybe there are other students, more students in other districts that need to go there. And maybe, maybe you guys all get together and go to the commissioner. But I think this is something important. I think this is something that really needs to be done for these students. The right kind of education is important for all students. As much as reading to a typical child is physical therapy to a child with special needs. One is not more important to the other. It depends on the individual. And if we're going to fight for the right curriculum, then we need to fight for what these students need. And they need support staff, they need therapies, they need behavioral specialists, people who can support them. So that school is the curriculum that we give to those typical students and that we fight for every day. And I just think that we're doing these students, not just the ones in Pawtucket, but the ones throughout the state that go to the school, a disservice by not taking a lead and reaching out to other districts. Like I said, you have superintendent meetings, get it done. You guys can do this, and I have the faith in you guys that you can do it. There are a lot of people who are backing this. And, Ron standing over there shaking. The president of our union is backing this. We need to try, at least try. We have 3-4 months? Yes, we still need to put the right things in the right places in case something happens. But there's no reason why we can't advocate at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was at the December meeting and I did vote to approve the letter backing out. And I think if memory serves me correct, at that meeting, really the determining factor was an insurance liability issue coming back to the district. And this evening I heard in public participation that insurance issue was resolved. And it sounds like probably in short order after we took the vote and sent our letter. So I find it curious that a majority of what I based my vote on, which was I couldn't expose the district to the great liability of us being the only ones there. And it was explained to us that it was an insurance. If that's been dismissed with whatever agreement the Northern Rhode Island Collaborative has come up with, it's curious that wasn't brought back to us. And I may not have voted to send a letter had I not thought the district was in grave liability. So the liability issue is, has that issue been resolved?
So more of the details on the resolution of that liability, because that is not the indication that I've been given from any level of legal counsel.
But I heard correctly tonight that
You did hear that. I did
Okay,
too, and I
okay.
made that note as well.
I would be interested, Ms. Ramsey, when you get that information, if you could share it with us, and maybe this is a discussion that we continue.
Okay.
I think it might have already been addressed by Ms. Grant, but so my question, the legal liability question. So Attorney Connolly, what you're saying is the legal liability we risk is if we just continue to operate as normal and operate as if all of our students, all of our 9 students are going to go to NRIC. and it comes to June and those are the only 9 students who are going to NRIC. As in, no other district signed on, no other district came, NRIC would probably have to dissolve because, or we would have to, I don't know what else we would do, but 9 students wouldn't be what we were paying for those 9 students wouldn't work out. So you're saying that the legal liability is if we just continue to operate as normal, it would be June and we wouldn't have any placements for our students. Legally, we wouldn't be providing placements for our students that their IEPs. So that's the legal liability you're speaking of, correct? Okay. And then, so the second thing, as Ms. Grant said, I agree. I've been following closely and hoping that RIDE or the commissioner would take the lead because I agree. I think Pawtucket can take the lead and speak to other superintendents. But I also think that this is something that Rhode Island Department of Education should be looking at and should be thinking about what they are doing as a body to, like I said, we can take the lead or Woonsocket can take the lead, but I do believe that that is where the main leadership should come from to get together the relevant players and come up with a plan or strategy that works. Because I agree that we could take that lead, but I just think that it should come also from the top. And so my question is there an indication that RIDE is going to take that lead and is going to bring together the districts and try to come up with a plan?
Information from the Department of Education. She inquired.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, the news has reported that RIDE has, and I'm wondering if there's anything beyond what we've heard in the news, which is these like kind of RIDE has indicated they're watching it closely, or RIDE has indicated. Yes.
That we were at, they did, it seemed to be indicated that things were going well at the school, in regards to funds and things like that. And it seemed like they were hopeful that legislation or the legislatures, please correct me if I'm wrong, that they're hoping that they would put some things in place. But again, we all know that that could be something done at the last minute. And, our students, whether they're out of district or in district, our special ed department is responsible for their IEPs. So the IEPs, would still, the special ed department would continue to work with the parents during this process. But there's no reason why we can't continue as a district working with the parents, working with the teachers in case, because there is always a chance. And like I said, they stated it in the meeting, but we need to be prepared as a district that these kids could come in the summer. So we do need to continue getting those referrals out there. We need to continue speaking with the parents. But in the meantime, we as a district need to work with other districts to show RIDE and share with RIDE how important these programs are to each district and how much we can't really provide. And it wouldn't just be 9 kids that would go back, because even though some of them are graduating, they would stay in the school. If they would stay in the school and continue their transition, and like Dr. Andrade said, if they're qualified for that. So some of these students would get 4 more years out of that school. So it's like I said, I think it's something very important that, I understand RIDE and the legislatures have to be the end game, and that's fine. But when you firmly believe something is for the best, and we know as a district that we cannot provide all of this for these students. And some of the other districts know that too. And we know this works. We know this works for these students. 9 of them, like he said, he has 11 referrals out there. We know these students can't come back to Pawtucket. So why not fight or advocate with other districts to see if you can keep their same situation going? It's not a bad situation. These parents told us that the kids are happy. The kids are getting what they need. They have the services. They're not going home as soon as they yell at something, yell something. And that's what we should be doing. Because I think we ask that of our own teachers here. If you're a teacher of a classroom and you think your child needs something, you advocate for it. You go to the principal, you go to the special ed department, you go to whoever, but you advocate for it. And that's what our district needs to do for these students. Our district needs to reach out and talk to other districts and then bring it to where it needs to go, and that's the least we could do, and like I said, that's all I'm asking. And I think if, hey, it might not work, but you know what? When it comes to your child, or it comes to any child, if they say no, you keep pushing until you can't push any longer. And all of us, I know a lot of you guys very well. This is why we do it. And we should be pushing till we can't push anymore. And that's all I have to say.
Any other discussion on the NRIC? Anything from legal or super to add to it? All right, committee, will you indulge me? Can we take, and I am so sorry, my eyes are blurry, letters C to H all together, so we can just ask your questions about what you might have for reports? Public participation was in the beginning of the meeting at 3 hours ago at 6. Sorry. Unless you guys want to indulge in that. Having another public participation, yeah, it's not posted on there at that time. All right, can we take all these reports together? You guys can ask questions about all the reports all at once. Is that okay? All right, does anyone have any questions about the monthly vending report, budget transfer report, overtime report, revenue report, work order summary, auto enrollment suspension report? Ms. Connie, I see your hand up.
Transfer.
Sure.
First of all, with the D and the I, what are those codes for? Okay, that's what I was, okay, so decrease and increase. So, this is just, I'm noticing here, there's quite a few like speech therapists, language therapists, PCAs. Were those just new hires or?
No, so those are for services. So when we budget, and you'll see when we have the budget workshop.
Mhm.
When we budget, we don't know where some of those services are gonna come from. So if they're allocated to, say we just use history, but then the services are in another building, they're just doing transfers.
From one building to another?
Could be from a location,
Okay.
to another. So if you see a lot of repetitive, and you'll notice, and I know that Mrs. Vanilla had a question, you'll notice that some say PUR, SER, purchase service, and
Mhm.
then it says,
Mhm.
speech or whatever it is. Some don't have the word purchase service, but it all depends on when that code was set up, on who set it up. So I'm working through all the codes to try to make sure that we change them so they're uniform.
Okay, thank you for that.
Anybody have any other discussion about any of the reports? Any monthly reports, Ms. Benoit, anything on the monthly reports? All right. With that, superintendent update.
Oh.
Yes, your turn.
Sorry. So there's, despite the fact that we've spoken a lot about the things that our struggles for us. There's a great number of things that are going on that are fantastic. Our schools are doing many after school and in during school activities that are involving all students, all things, celebrating their accomplishments. We're gearing up for RICAS testing. We're gearing up for the state assessments. And I would like to commend the teachers and the staff for all that they're doing with their administrators to ensure that the students have a very active program to go to each and every day. So thank you, teachers, administrators, and staff. That's it.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. School committee member update, Ms. Bonolo?
Well, they talked to the student representatives, talked about all of the activities that our students are excelling in sports and mock trial, so my congratulations out to all of those students and for the fact that those activities are available. One thing I did want to ask about was we had talked a few meetings ago about an assistant for the truant officer.
It's not really an assistant, it's an attendance officer, and that person starts on the 27th. Hired,
Thank you.
started the 27th.
Thank you. And thank you all, and good night.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Oh, I think Ms. Conley.
Oh, Ms. Connie?
Love your patience tonight, for having us ask so many questions.
No, Mr. Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be brief as well. Incredibly frustrated with our vendors, with our partners, our team on the construction side of the business, because I think the information coming to us is very difficult to decipher, and I don't think it's necessarily in line with what's been spoken to us previously. My frustration with that is growing exponentially at this point. And also in that same realm is my frustration with Shea. We've talked about Shea from November. We've talked about bond money. We've talked about 3 letters to the city administration requesting the access of those funds. Apparently, we've got some type of approval, although I didn't see that in the approval that it said effective today, you can start drawing down the bond. But besides that, it's still not on the agenda. And if we're gonna do any meaningful work at Shea in the summer, I don't know what we're still waiting for to bring it up and get moving on it. And that's it. I've asked for it a few times, and I'm just gonna continue to mention it at the end of every meeting, because it doesn't seem like anybody but me is in a rush to do anything at Shea.
Super, do you have something to add?
Can I respond?
If you have information about that, I wasn't at that meeting. I thought we.
So no,
signed, sealed, and
no,
delivered.
he's 100% right. There's been a little bit of a lag. So the last correspondence that we got that the city had said yes to our last ask indicated that they would be reaching out to our CFO to be able to work in collaboration to adjust and proceed forward. I actually reached out to the city today, the mayor's office today. I said, where are we with this meeting? And he said that it will be set for probably Monday.
Right, so can you make sure to update?
I
the
can
committee
certainly do that on the next agenda.
For the, thank you. Miss, the regularly scheduled meeting of April. Yes.
Budget workshop.
Will you have that information by Thursday? We'll go on. Right, that's the thing.
The meeting is going to happen next week.
So if it fits in where we can add it to the 30th meeting, we will, but if it doesn't add into, we'll make sure it goes on April. Regular schedule.
Just caution that we have a definitive amount of time to get this work done, and we've been talking about this now for a year, 2 years, whatever it's been. We've been talking about this for a long time, and the window is rapidly closing to get any meaningful work done there during this summertime. You wanna wait till April or June to put it on? Go ahead, but I'm gonna talk about it at every meeting.
Understood. I thought it was signed sealed, so. Ms. Doobie.
First, we heard from the students, but Women's History Month, we did have a celebration. And we sent a high school student from each of our high schools, and they did go to the State House for the day. They were able to meet all of the state officers and have conversations with our governor, our lieutenant governor. And they also were able to be recognized on the floor of the Senate and on the House of Representatives. This was not for all high school students in Rhode Island. This was for our Pawtucket high school students. And I want to thank our state senator, Senator Cano, for making that possible. Karen Ozate worked closely with her representative from Pawtucket. So I want to thank the two of them. And I also want to thank Ms. Lee Rabbit for working so closely with me to make sure that they had the transportation they needed. In addition, we had our first meeting of the superintendent search. It was a very productive meeting. If you go on School Spring, our job is now posted. And the intention of this subcommittee, which is a collaborative group, a diversity of opinions, parents, community members, former students, employees, city representatives, school representatives, union representation. The aim of this subcommittee is to have, for the first meeting in May, a recommendation to you. If we end up getting delayed, we're holdback date is the second meeting in May. But we hope to have a recommendation of between 1 to 3 names, depending on where our committee falls with that recommendation for your consideration. Thank you.
Great job. All right, my update is, can I have a motion for adjournment? All right, moved by Chairman Charbonneau, Committee Member Charbonneau, roll, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed are adjourned.